Salvation Army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind my back. And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Back and forth through my mind behind a cigarette. And a message coming from my eyes says, leave it alone. Don't wanna hear about it. Every single one's got a story to tell. Everyone knows about it. From the Queen of England to the hounds of hell. And if I catch it coming back my way, I'm gonna serve it to you. And that ain't what you want to hear, but that's what I'll do.
Here we go. Be careful what you wish for, Parker. Hello, Peter.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Multiverse movie show. I'm, of course, your host, Isaac, for today. I haven't live streaming quite some time, so this is going to be fun. Here we got Saggy in the chat. We got BK Dan. Let me read some comments first. Saggy says, stopping in during work break to say hi, love. What's up, Saggy? Thank you for being here. And then let's see what's BK Dan. What's up, BK Dan? He's actually a member here. He's supporting us financially, so thank you to BK Dan. We do have a membership program. Before I get into his comments, let me pull up the image if I have it. Okay, so to become a member, it is 99 cents a month. There's a join button down there near the subscribe button. So if you want to join the membership, you can join us, and it's pretty cheap, and it does support us financially. And we do give everyone a shout out being here. There's also stickers and everything. So yeah, but let me read BK Dan's comments. He says, I like the intro, Isaac. By the way, been a while. Yeah, it has been. Got my tickets for Multiverse of Madness May 5th, 3 p.m. 2D regular screening at my local Regal. That is awesome, dude. And yeah, I did get my tickets. He did ask that question. I have my tickets for May 5th. It's going to be at an AMC IMAX, so I am very excited. Now, I'll admit I've been frustrated with AMC the last couple of months. But I did want that IMAX experience, and they do provide the best IMAX experience. But I am excited for Multiverse of Madness, not just for the cameos, but for the story. It seems like they're going a lot into the whole House of M storyline, which is what they hinted at in WandaVision. But it now seems like they're really pushing that in Multiverse of Madness. And yes, we're going to talk about the cameos. We're going to talk about possibilities for who's going to show up, because what we've heard is that this movie has more cameos than Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame combined. That's what we've heard. And I'll admit, this movie, there probably would be more hype if No Way Home didn't exist. I'm not even going to deny that, because it feels like we hyped up No Way Home. We put all our hype to No Way Home, that when Multiverse of Madness is here, it's kind of like we're thinking more about how we just witnessed Toby's return, Andrew's return, all these returns. But either way, it's going to be very special. It's going to be great to see all of that happen. And again, this is the iconic image. But hey, for all we know, Multiverse of Madness is going to have an even more iconic image. But before we start off the stream, please follow us on our social media platforms at Isaac the Film Geek, both on Twitter and Instagram. And I think that's all for today. But yeah, we're talking mainly Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But before I bring in our guest, I do want to get the clip that gets everyone hyped up.
In my mind's eye, Kenobi. Kenobi!
All right. So we also have a poll, by the way, before I bring on Ethan. We have a poll. The poll says, "Are you excited for Doctor Strange 2?" 75% of you say yes, 25% say no. So if you are excited, if you're not, please let us know in the chat down below. And also smash the like button to help support the channel every way with that, whatever interaction. And if you have any theories for Doctor Strange 2, let us know in the chat below. And if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comment section down below. And then always remember says, "Do you think Ghost Rider will be in Doctor Strange?" I've always heard rumors recently. It won't come out, right? I don't know. I don't know if they'll introduce either bring the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider or introduce a new one. I have an entire list and I didn't put that in the list. Do I think it's a possibility? No, but I do think it's a higher chance of some of the names I wrote. But anyways, before we get on with the rest of everything, we got to bring in my good old friend Ethan. He's been here twice, I believe. But let's give a warm round of applause for Ethan. What's up, Ethan? Oh crap! I forgot I muted you.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, that was me that muted you. My bad.
Yeah, no, it was 3 times.
Yeah, but are you excited for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness?
Yes, I am. I'm actually really hoping that there's a lot of cameos, or if not cameos, I guess it's still cameos, but like I hope they introduce characters into the series, not only just as a cameo, but something that will actually be here for good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one of my worries going into No Way Home, and the same worry I have for this movie, is I hope this movie doesn't just become what Crisis. Okay, I know a lot of people love the CW DC stuff. I'm not a big fan of it, but
Like the Crisis on Infinite Earths in the CW,
yeah. And
just a
one of my
big
problems with
mess.
Crisis was every like 5 minutes there would be a cameo and be like, "Hey everyone, I exist in this multiverse," and then they would leave, and it would feel like there was no purpose. Like there's this cool one that I remember when it came out, everyone freaked out, but it was when Ezra Miller's Flash meets Grant Gustin's Flash, and everyone was freaking out. But it to me, I felt nothing because there was no point of it. It was just Flash
It
meeting
was
other
just a
Flash.
cameo. Like it was just to get people hyped. Like there was no Urza Miller and Grant Gustin working together. It was just like, oh
Yeah,
hi.
it was just random. It was like, what's the point? But I do like how
Especially
Grant
since the
Gustin
way they
memes
set
him.
it up was a huge plot hole. Because like they introduced him right after they just established every other universe just died.
Mhm.
So how the
And
hell is he existing?
yeah, and my worry, and look, I trust Marvel. They've already shown in No Way Home that they can have cameos and make it fit the story. Like Toby and Andrew, they fit the story. It wasn't just them saying hi; it was them actually being part of it. And I'm really hoping Multiverse of Madness is doing the same thing, where it's like these cameos make narrative sense. Because at the end of the day, cameos are cool and all, but if there's no purpose to them, then what's the point? And
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing is to make a good movie rather than just cameos, because any 5-year-old can write cameos. Oh, look, 3 Spider-Man fights 5 bad guys. Whoa, that's not special. But a good writer knows how to make them fit with the plot, make the story flow exactly well how it needs to. But yeah, and we have BK Dan says, "Please share Isaac to your social stuffs." Helps him out. Thank you, BK Dan. And then BK Dan says, "Not a cameo theory. Ultron Vision was seen talking to him at the end of Age of Ultron. It didn't kill him. Ultron. So we know there are Ultron bots from the trailers. We know
Mm-hmm.
that Ultron bots are gonna be there. And from the What If series, we did get an Ultron that collected the Infinity Stones. And
And I'm pretty sure What If is canon into the MCU multiverse.
yeah,
So there's somewhere out there's that little orb with uh Killmonger and Ultron battling it out.
yeah, and wait, hold up. But I don't think we're gonna see Ultron specifically, but I do think we're gonna get a lot of the Ultron bots. And then it says here, BK Dan says, I think White Vision will seek out and there'll be baddies in Multiverse of Madness. But you know what? Let's get into the cameo part. What we're going to do is I have a list. I'm going to highlight each one and we're going to talk about the possibilities. You guys in the chat, you guys let us know what do you think are the chances of each cameo. But yeah, let's pull it up here, right here on the Google Docs. Now, the first one, I think this one's it's already 100%, but Professor X, the Patrick Stewart version specifically. Now, I do have a theory. I don't think this is the same one we've seen in the X-Men movies, obviously because he's died I think 2 or 3 times at this point. I don't think it's the same one. I think it's like a Illuminati variant where it's like a Professor X that more looks out for the multiverse. But what do you think about that, Ethan?
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I can see how that would work. Probably better for the storyline, or we could be looking. We could be looking at one of the. We could be looking at one of the Xaviers from the comics.
Yeah, and another question is who's going to be the Illuminati? Because we've seen Mordo is going to be there. We know Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier, but we saw more chairs in there. I wonder who's the rest of them.
Well, the original members of the Illuminati in the comics was Mr. Fantastic, Iron Man, Black Bolt, Charles Xavier, Doctor Strange. There was a member who was invited, but he declined, and that was Black Panther.
Mhm.
Because Black Panther was like, nah, I ain't gonna be a part of y'all's manipulation. It's like we are heroes, but that's too much power for anybody to have.
Yeah, and I didn't write this down, so we'll mention this. Some people have been theorizing that Black Panther will show up, but he'll have his mask on the entire time because obviously Chadwick Boseman sadly passed away. I honestly don't think we're gonna see Black Panther nor a Black Panther variant, nor even Killmonger, who we saw in What If as a variant. I don't think we're gonna get any of them, but I'd
Mhm.
also be lying if I said there's not a possibility. But now let's get on to some actual theories because that one was already like we already knew that. But this next one, Superior Iron Man, but the Tom Cruise version. We've all known when the first Iron Man movie came out, one of the people who almost got casted was Tom Cruise. And now they have this chance where they can have Tom Cruise play Iron Man, but like a different version of it.
And I could see that business on a business standpoint. I could see that working, or it's a good risk to take, because if people like his performance enough, they can start doing more Iron Man cameos without worrying about Robert Downey Jr. You know,
Yeah,
that's all, but that all depends on if Tom Cruise does a good job.
yeah. I don't like most of the cameos, and I'm gonna try not scrolling down because I don't want to spoil a lot of them. I think most of the cameos we're gonna see, they're only gonna be like a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
But because Tom Cruise is a big actor, I actually have a theory that maybe he could be on Secret Invasion, just a little quick cameo as like an Iron Man. But okay, so I always say this: when you hear plot leaks, especially if they're coming from Reddit, only like 2% of the time they come out to be right. But some of the plot leaks on Reddit have said that in this timeline, or Tom Cruise is going to be part of the Illuminati. But in this timeline, this is going to be an Iron Man who did put a shield around the world. He has Ultron bots. He's an Iron Man that completed the mission that Robert Downey Jr. couldn't do in Age of Ultron, and that's what I've heard. But again, they're coming from Reddit. I wouldn't take it to the bank, but it does seem like it could make sense. But the next one I think is an interesting one. Maria Rambeau as a Captain Marvel variant. Now in the trailers, we've seen a glowing Captain Marvel like figure, and some people have been theorizing it's either Superior Iron Man or Maria Rambeau. I think it's Maria Rambeau looking more at her, although you can't really tell that much when you're watching it quickly. But to me, I think it's Maria Rambeau. We have of course this is a variant. This is the timeline where instead of Brie, I'm not Brie, what was Carol Danvers, instead of her getting the Captain Marvel stuff, it would have been Maria Rambeau. And I think it would make sense because we know her daughter Monica Rambeau in WandaVision did get powers Crap, what was her super? Ethan, do you remember what Monica Rambeau's superhero name is? I cannot remember.
I think it's Spectrum, or
Yes, that one. But
I just
I
know
I
like
think this one's likely.
her powers in the comics. Like people talk about them, and I don't really know her character that much. I didn't know her until like WandaVision came out, but I tried to look into it as much as I could, and it sounds like she's she's one of those bigger hitter type characters. Like in the comic book wise, she has the power to absorb and manipulate any type of energy,
Hmm. And
and
BK
that's
Dan
pretty
says,
OP power.
yeah, and BK Dan says, I think that if Cruz shows, he'll. Oh, he misspelled. He'll be some in Armor Wars near the end of it. There's a possibility.
I
I'm not really
actually
looking
forgot
forward
all
to
about
Armor
Armor
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah, I know they teased a little bit of it in Spider-Man: No Way Home when they said that all the machinery that Peter had has been taken away from the government, and then we know, man, I've not seen Falcon and Winter Soldier in a long time, but what's Peggy Carter's what was the blonde girl? I cannot remember her name. The blonde girl that kissed.
Baron?
Yeah, Sharon Carter. I know they teased her as she's now bad, and maybe she's gonna be in Armor Wars, but it is what it is.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting with her character because like she's always in the comic books, you know, she's always been a member of Shield, so it's interesting what they're doing with her character. It's kind of like for me, I can't think of what they're doing because I'm so stuck in the way that they always had her in the comic books.
yeah, and I'm not even gonna lie to you. I like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I like it,
I,
but
I
it's just a to me it's a show I can't watch more than once, which isn't a bad thing to say because not a lot of shows do I rewatch. But it's
uh-huh.
just it was all right. But
I
I didn't
watched
really like Sharon Carter that much in the show.
I watched it twice. I don't know. Like I kind of, when it comes to the series, like I'm excited for Doctor Strange, because it opens a lot of doors. But when it comes to the Marvel series and the way they're doing things now, I'm a bit more interested in some of the more grounded stories that they're trying to tell. Like I really liked Hawkeye. I liked Hawkeye because it was a more grounded story, and that it kind of I don't know how to put it, but there was more real stakes, you know.
Yeah, and wait, I do gotta ask you, have you been watching Moon Knight yet?
Yeah, I'm caught up on Moon Knight, and that's pretty crazy what's going on in there. Like the just the episode yesterday.
Yeah, I it's so funny because when I first started reading Moon Knight comics, they were so grounded. They were like Batman-esque. And of course, over time they changed it up with the whole Egyptian god stuff, the whole personality disorder stuff. I love the show so far. I wouldn't say it's WandaVision level, but it's good enough, and I think it's better than all the Disney Plus Marvel series besides
Well,
WandaVision, or at least to me personally.
this might be a spoiler. Am I allowed to just
Yeah,
spoil?
wait. I will make it clear to everyone. There will be some spoilers for Moon Knight. So if you haven't seen it yet, or you care, I don't know. There are
Well,
spoilers. There you go. All
it,
right, go
it,
ahead, Ethan.
it's Doctor Strange relevant. Because at the ending of the latest episode of Moon Knight, when he was kind of turning back the stars to kind of take a look at what it used to be like a few thousand years ago, the way he moved his hands reminded me a lot of how Doctor Strange would move his hands for the portal ring, or how he would do things with time. And the thing is, with in the comic books, Doctor Strange, he gets his powers from a certain set of gods. They're called the Vishanti.
Hmm.
And no, the part of my brain was kind of wondering if it's connected, because this is the first time that we're seeing like actual gods in the Marvel universe. You know, like
What about
of course.
Eternals?
Well, Eternals, it's different because, like, all right, we have the Eternals. They're pretty much like demigods, but they were created by the why can't I think of it right now? uh I can't think of the name of them. The Celestials. There we go. I
Yeah.
couldn't think for some reason. The Celestials. And but it's different for the beings like the Vishanti or the Egyptian gods, because those, they seem to have more of a meta thing. Like they live in a different plane of reality, while the Celestials, they are physical beings within the Marvel universe. They're just always somewhere else.
I will say, whoever lived, it must suck to live on an Earth on the MCU, because in 2012 you had to deal with an alien invasion that changed. You saw a god come to Earth, Thor. You saw aliens coming here. You saw a guy who fought in World War II show up to help, and you had a billionaire playboy philanthropist show up to help. And then in 2015, that billionaire playboy philanthropist nearly killed the entire world by creating robots to try to protect the Earth. And then 2018, you have half
Half the population
half the population
disappearing.
just randomly just gone. And especially them, they don't know what's going on. So to them, to hear that, I'm pretty sure Captain America probably explained everything to them. But just imagine like seeing half the universe pop. Then 5 years later, the universe, those people that died are back. With 5 years, you have enough time to process everything. You like, for example, some people probably had their wives or husbands die, and then they got remarried, and then those people came back. That must have been awkward. And then you have our Arashim the judge show up and say he's coming back for judgment. You now have Spider-Man's identity got, although that one didn't matter too much to the world, but he fought a lizard, he fought a guy with octopus arms, and then now in Moon Knight, what's his name? Khonshu
Turn back the sky for like a minute. And something that a theory with that I heard by new Rockstar is they were thinking that this was a permanent change, and they were like, oh well, maybe all the characters who are dead, maybe they're back because he turned back the clock or whatnot. But it's like, I'm not trying to like call them out or anything, but it's like, no, the show made it obvious that he had to hold it and then released it, so that's not a permanent change. But I just wanted to point that out so other people don't have this idea that somehow the stars or the rest of the galaxy is back to 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, Marvel is crazy right now.
Imagine
what it's like being religious on Earth. I mean, on the MCU, because, like, just imagine a god with a hammer showed up in 2012. Arashim the judge came for judgment. Half the universe just dusted out of nowhere, and now there are Egyptian gods confirmed in the MCU. Just imagine what it's like being religious in the MCU. Like, how does the world change? I would love if Marvel did this little Disney Plus series where they show a normal person, no powers at all. Doesn't even have to be a guy from the comics. It can just be a random guy and have his story or her story, their perspective on seeing everything go around. That would be a cool little concept.
Yeah. Well, and with Doctor Strange, this gives us an opportunity to really see if they're going to introduce the Vishanti or not, because in the trailer, he has a new Eye of Agamotto, and in the comic books, there's three Eyes of Agamotto. So not only does this, with what I've loved so far with Doctor Strange's like journey in the first movie, he's barely surviving. Like, he was barely getting along in that movie. And then in Infinity War, he's looking in the future, looking at several different billion possibilities in the future. He had his own one-on-one fight with Thanos. And then everything we saw him do in Endgame. And then in the most recent movie with him in it, with Spider-Man, he seems like he's progressively just getting more powerful and more to that, like how powerful he is in the comic books. And that's what I've been liking about all these characters.
He's able to wipe people's memory too.
Yeah, like you see him doing some almost reality warping powers, which is what he does have in the comic books. Like, and it's something that I've always pointed out for many years. Like, a lot of these characters in the Marvel universe, obviously, like, they had to do it this way, but they are way depowered versus their comic book counterparts. But like, we're seeing Scarlet Witch get some of her like reality warping type powers. We're seeing Doctor Strange progressively get stronger and up there in power. And now that we're also having the Eternals and the Celestials and the gods being introduced, it makes me wonder what that power scaling is going to be like now, because we have literal gods, we have people who can tap into the power of gods, we have a literal nexus being inside the Marvel universe, because that's what Scarlet Witch is. She's a nexus being. She's one of those. She's one of, the Phoenix Force, right?
Yeah.
She is the polar. She's what her powers are, or where she gets it from, is the polar opposite of the Phoenix Force. It's the yin to the Phoenix Force's yang. And with that in mind, now that we've finally established that, oh, chaos magic is real, that's what this is. It's not just her having a meta ability or a power she just got from the Infinity Stone. With that, they kind of eventually will have to bring the Phoenix Force into play.
Yeah, Marvel is in a it feels more comic booky now than it's ever had.
Yeah.
Because in the comic books, they also had Egyptian gods, celestials, they had everything. And now the movies, it feels like that.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about having the comics, I mean, not the comics, the Disney Plus series is it. In the comics, there was always smaller comics and then like the big story comics. It wasn't always just big stories. Now with the series, it feels like you have these mini stories like Moon Knight, WandaVision, all that.
Mhm.
But you also have the big stories like Eternal,
Which
Shang-Chi,
are the
all those.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how that feels. And Hawkeye, I know a lot of people don't like Hawkeye. I didn't like 2 or 3 episodes in it, but I like it. One thing I do like from Hawkeye is it gave me a break from the big world ending, and it was just a guy trying to go home for Christmas. And I like it. I like keeping it simple. Moon Knight, yes, Moon Knight is not all that simple because he is dealing with Egyptian gods and all that. But it
Mhm.
does feel more simple than the average Marvel stuff. Not saying I don't like the hardcore stuff. It's just that sometimes I want to take a little break.
Well, and one of the things that I'm really enjoying with how the Marvel universe is changing is like with Moon Knight, and not only just Moon Knight, but Hawkeye and all these Disney series. Like, we're seeing a lot more violence. Like, the violence is kind of
Especially in Moon Knight.
especially in Moon Knight. We saw my dude get impaled.
I love when Steven comes up with the Mr. Knight stuff. He wants to fight at first, gets stabbed like twice, and says, "All right, I'm done with it." You, and then gave Mark Spector his turn.
It's a funny it's a funny way that they're changing it, and I like it because I like the mature way of going about it. Because, like, yeah, the audience, like, comic books have always been seen as like the audience goal. It should be kids, but I mean, nowadays, how many people from when they were kids are now adults still wanting to watch Marvel? And now it's starting to open that door for people to indulge in a more adult version of the Marvel universe. Like, and something that I'm really hoping for that they're continuing with, because, like, I remember someone once saying there's like three ways that they're gonna have the Marvel universe now. They're gonna have the grounded stories where it's more just like Hawkeye type stuff, and then there's the Hawkeye and Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, more grounded stories. Then they're gonna have like those big Avenger level threats, and then they're gonna have like Guardians of the Galaxy level threats. But I'm also getting with how they're changing things, I'm getting the feeling there's going to be more of a mystical threat too, like with Moon Knight, and Blade is supposed to be coming, and we've already been seeing how crazy things are getting with Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch.
I know a lot of people are criticizing the MCU still. Like, I remember when Endgame finished, And I know me and you had this conversation before I started YouTube, but everyone had this thing that what's Marvel gonna do after? It's the end. But me and you discussed that Marvel has a lot of storylines they can get from, and Thanos isn't the end all be all. And I think so far what I've liked about Marvel now is it seems like they're going with much more different stories. Like Eternals to me feels much more different than Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi feels different from Spider-Man No Way Home. Multiverse of Madness is going to be the first horror MCU movie. That's another interesting thing. And we also we're not about to, but we're going to get our first R-rated Marvel thing, and that's going to be Deadpool. Blade's coming in. You
And
see,
Back in the day when Blade was showing, those were R-rated films.
yeah, with the Wesley Snipes version.
Blade is not a PG-13 character. We're talking about a black dude who's a vampire who kills people.
I'm not like the most hardcore fan of I like the first Blade movie. The other two, I'm not like the biggest fan of.
I liked the
But
third one and the first one. The second one I could have been without.
but I like the casting for Marshala Ali. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Mhm.
But I'm excited to see him. We know that they teased him in Eternals, although I would have loved if they just quickly pinned the camera to him rather than just hearing his voice. But I love that they already introduced Blade. I want to see his movie. It's been announced since San Diego Comic-Con back in 2019, I believe. So we've already had so much time, and they've yet to start filming. But and BK Dan brings up there's this thing called comic book fatigue. We're not getting that anytime soon. The Batman just crossed 800 million at the box office. Spider-Man No Way Home during a pandemic nearly crossed 2 billion. I believe it. Wait, I don't remember if it crossed 2 billion, but Shang-Chi did really well. Eternals didn't do all that well. It did decent. Comic book fatigue isn't happening anytime soon.
Especially like you said, there's so many storylines to take. Like
Yeah.
the thing with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and how this is going, like we kind of strayed off about the cameos that might be happening, but it has the potential to open up a lot more stories. Like, yeah, we have our main MCU universe, but they've already established there's a multiverse, which means there's a multiverse of possibilities.
Yeah,
they
or
can
multiverse of movies.
Exactly. And at this point, they can do anything. They could have a like what they're doing with Doctor Strange. They can have horror type Marvel films. They can have the more spy like Black Widow was, the spy type films. Like they can go after any genre because of how many stories there are.
Yeah, and that's the thing that comic books have always been special about. Comic books weren't just one thing. There were many kinds of genres, many kinds of themes, and some of them are kid friendly, some of them are adult. They're all for everyone, and that's why comic book movies have succeeded way more than any other genre in the last 10 years because Kevin Feige, he knew what he had, and he had a plan, and he realized, hey, you don't have to make every comic book movie the same. Some of them can be different, some of them can be similar. That's a special thing. But let's get back to the cameos. We were talking about this one. Now, this one I think is a possibility, but also not. So, Bruce Campbell as a Strange variant. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up
I have no
Bruce
idea who
Campbell,
Bruce Campbell is.
he made cameos in the Spider-Man movies that Maguire months. He's the one who gave Spider-Man his name. Um, when he introduced him in that wrestling cage thing, he was like the Amazing Spider-Man,
Oh, that's him.
and then also showed up in Spider-Man 2 and 3. But
So you mean Ash? Ash from the Rising Dead.
yeah,
Okay.
and the reason why I bring him up is because Sam Raimi loves to have him make cameos in his movies, just like in the Spider-Man movies, and in Spider-Man 2. So we've all known Sam Raimi was always a Strange fan, and even referenced him in Spider-Man 2 with that Doctor Strange like reference. Now,
Mhm.
as a Strange variant, I find that very low likely. I don't think that's a possibility.
I think he has a bigger possibility of being Ash than being Doctor
Or
Strange.
or a Mysterio variant, because I know Sam Raimi had the idea to eventually make him Mysterio in a future Spider-Man movie. So I do think he's gonna make a cameo, just that I don't think it's gonna be a strange cameo, but that theory's out there.
Mhm.
But let's see what the chat says. BK Dan says near 0% Campbell. I think he will show up as a little cameo, whether he's just a janitor, whether he's a strange variant, I don't know. But I do think because it's Sam Raimi, it's gonna be a little cameo. And also Kamazu says hi, John Chan. And then nobody's gonna get this reference, only me. He says I had a quite flashing morning. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it is what it is. BK Dan says that's why I said 12 to 15 more years. Yeah, I agree. If look, eventually there might be a comic book fatigue because that happens with a lot of genres. That's happened with the Western genre. That's happened with the um, what am I thinking of? Genre. That even happened with comedy. Remember, there was a time period where Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen were just making many comedies. Now you rarely find a comedy. Now, one thing that comic book movies have over all those other genres is comic book movies aren't just one genre; they're multiple genres. So they have that benefit, and they have many storylines to pull from. There is a chance eventually that will happen, but the reality is you just got to make good movies. If Marvel, DC, that's why I hate the Marvel DC rivalry, because you have some Marvel fans who hope for every DC movie to fail, and then you also have DC fans who hope every Marvel movie fails. The thing is, if one franchise fails, then the other one's coming down because the general audience, they don't see two different franchises. What they see is Superman's a superhero, Spider-Man's a superhero. If one does really bad and then they get multiple of those bad movies, eventually they're going to be fatigued. But the thing is, they got to consistently make good movies. That's what I think the comic book genre has been doing the last many years. Sure, there's been some bumps in the road, but right now they're in a safe spot. Right now, it seems like they're comfortable, especially with No Way Home, because No Way Home just completely shocked everyone, especially during a pandemic, making nearly 2 billion. But yeah, it is what it is.
Next,
And
next cameo.
let me read this one first. That'll be like 24 years total from Iron Man forward. I do wonder what Marvel is going to look like in 10 years. But the main question I have is, will Kevin Feige even stay at Marvel that long? Because I don't know if you know all of this, but there's a lot of behind the scenes issues with the new CEO of Disney, Bob Chapek. He's had issues with Kevin Feige because Kevin Feige is still pissed that without his permission, Black Widow was put on Disney Plus. There's been a lot of issues. Kevin Feige right now is at his prime. He's done the impossible by making the comic book genre and transformed it into the most, like, the $1 billion profit it is now, and did something very few producers can say that they made over 25 movies and all of them do well financially. Just recently, they barely just now had their first Rotten Tomatoes flop, just critically wise, and that was Eternals. Kevin Feige right now is at the top of his game, but the question is he going to put up with Bob Chapek's bullshit? We're going to have to wait and see, find out. But I am wondering, is he even going to stay here in the next 10 years?
I certainly hope so. Like he, no, his vision for the MCU, it seems like a really good one because
Yeah.
it's he, I mean, in early stages of Marvel, like we were kind of getting with that more realistic version of these characters, but now we're bringing the comic books to life, and he's managing to do it all with or trying. I mean, lately things have been kind of questionable, but he's been doing it while keeping a progressive overall story for the universe.
Mm-hmm.
He's been able to do it with like every series. There's a consequence that you'll hear about in a different one. You'll hear about the consequences of whatever happened in a different series. Like in Far From Home, we already knew that we knew that something was going on with Wanda. We knew something was going on with Thor and Strange. Back in
Oh, wait, now I remember. I was questioning, but now I remember what you mean.
Yeah, because back in Far From Home, he was like, "What about Thor? What about
Off
what
world.
about why can't they do this?" It's like they're not available.
Yeah, but let's get to the next cameo. And this one, Loki from the Loki series
I see that
specifically.
being very very plausible, to be honest. Like because
Yeah.
the thing is, I don't have a vision of who the real big bad is gonna be in the Multiverse of Madness, but I can't see it not being either Wanda,
I think it's Wanda.
the Illuminati, like, or Kang. I know Kang is supposed to make an appearance in the next Ant-Man movie, but Kang is a big villain right now. Like we know he's a multiversal threat. He conquers universes.
It is in the name.
Like his name is Kang the Conqueror, and so I either he might be an important part to play in the series, or Kang himself is just going to show up. And if not Kang, I could very well see Loki trying to get his way to Strange and warn him about Kang.
Okay, so I don't know if you've seen this image since you did bring up Kang. I'm gonna try pulling up the first and only Ant-Man Quantumania stuff we have. So let me pull it up right here. It's a really good poster. Well, it's a shirt, but it seems like it's gonna be a poster. Here's the first anything we have.
Oh boy.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I think that and you see right here there's a reflection. Let me try zooming in into it.
And that's Kang in the reflection. It looks like a comic book accurate Kang too.
Yeah, that's clearly Kang. I do wonder. So Kang is a big baddie in the comics. He's fought the Avengers many times. So it is weird that
They have
we're gonna have him
Ant-Man.
in Ant-Man, especially since Ant-Man's one of the weaker characters.
Like,
But one thing I do like that the Loki series introduced was there are many, many, many versions of Kang, and there just happened to be one for that time. But now it seems like they're all loose, and I do wonder what they're going to do with this character.
because there's the Council of Kang, and they're not all men. Like they're women, female Kangs. There's several different types of Kangs, and the Council of Kang oversees what the majority of all the Kangs do. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see what you mean. Like maybe this is not the big bad Kang, but just one of them.
Yeah, and of course they already introduced the quantum realm, so there's that connection.
I think we did see like the little pocket city inside.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, in the quantum realm, and that's looks exactly like Kang City.
And BK Dan says Loki mentioned not showing up. They'll save Loki for Thor 4. Now, I originally thought that. But in the Loki series, they really made it clear that Loki now wants to protect the multiverse. He wants to help it. And obviously
he has clear good guy vibes right now.
Yeah. And seeing how they ended the first season, it did seem like he's now going to stay there and try to save the multiverse, because now Kang is the main guy. Well, he was there previously, but like that other Kang said, if you think I'm bad, just wait till my other variants come in. And I think we're at least gonna get I don't think he's gonna be like a Toby or Andrew kind of thing where they became big plot parts of the movie, but I do think he's gonna have a little cameo. I think it's very likely, but I do get that idea that he could show up for Thor 4. However, the thing is, I don't think Thor 4 is gonna have anything multiverse wise.
Yeah.
By the way, where's the trailer? You have 90 days, and there's yet to be a teaser trailer
for Thor 4.
Yeah, and it comes out in July. It feels like it's coming out in, I don't know, November. It feels like it's coming out then, but
because they haven't made a trailer for it.
I know they've done editing it because someone from one of the dubbed versions, I think it's a Portuguese version of the trailer, they took an image saying that they finished editing it, but I feel like maybe they're holding off until Doctor Strange comes out, so that way when you're watching Multiverse of Madness, you see that trailer and it gets people intrigued.
Yeah, just like how they did with the end of No Way Home, they had the Doctor Strange trailer. But more on the whole like Loki and Kang bit, like you said, it might not be a big central part of the story, but I mean the way my brain is kind of thinking about it. All right, the Illuminati is now a new position in the multiverse. It seems like this is supposed to be a multiversal council. Unlike in the comic books, the Illuminati did there was an Illuminati on almost every universe, and they would interact with each other. There was actually this one group called the Council of Reeds, which
Remember
which
that?
Reed Richard in almost every universe had the Infinity Stones, and they're just like kind of trying to figure out how it works. But what it seems like the MCU is doing, the Illuminati is one group, I'm guessing, of people from different universes that all work together. And it seems like this group probably didn't exist until after Loki, because
Mhm.
Loki established there was only one timeline until the one above all, or no, he's not the one above all, not yet.
There is
Until
a plot
that,
hole
that
to
King
that.
came out. Yeah.
Like, so in the show, they established that the TVA will arrest you the minute you change, like you're different from the timeline. Um, so we have Sylvie. I think that Lady Loki, Sylvie, they didn't arrest her until she was much older. I think the character at that when she got arrested is supposed to be like 8 years old, somewhere around there, or a
Hmm.
kid. But wouldn't they have figured that out a long time ago? Maybe when the minute she was born, because they say the reason why they arrested her is she was female, and obviously Loki is a male, and there's some plot holes into all of it. Like, if there's only one timeline, why are there so many that stray off?
That already strayed off and got as far as they did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want because in the beginning of Loki, they established that the second Loki messed something up that wasn't supposed to happen, they arrested him. But with Sylvie, it took like many years to eventually arrest her. Like, I don't know. There's some plot. I'm fine with it because overall, I did like the Loki show. I'm hoping that there aren't as many plot holes in Multiverse of Madness. So that's one of
Mhm.
my worries. But I'm
But
also not a big plot hole guy as long as you make most of what you're saying make sense. But
mhm.
typically, multiverse and time travel movies tend to have plot holes. Even Endgame, even the writers for Endgame, when they were asked about the plot holes, they just said, "Look, it's time travel. Nobody's gonna be able to write it without any plot holes."
But kind of what I'm getting at is I think that the Illuminati might play a part with Kang, because they might be the opposite of the Council of Reeds, and with Doctor Strange always fucking with the multiverse of with like No Way Home, and you know, I think and then with Wanda playing a part, I think that's why what everything is going on. So we're gonna have like a probably a House of M moment, and then the Illuminati gets involved because they're trying to probably bring order to the multiverse, and then maybe Kang is playing a part somehow. I don't know. That's just my the way my I'm kind of thinking about it. That's my theory, but we'll see.
Yeah, and let me bring up BK Dance. So I didn't even think about this because I forgot CinemaCon is happening soon. But it says they'll probably wait for the trailer to drop. CinemaCon. I, I'm glad you brought that up, BK because I completely forgot CinemaCon is about to happen. But yeah, I do think they're gonna wait. They did that with Spider-Man: No Way Home's first teaser, where they waited until CinemaCon to drop a trailer. I've also heard they're gonna play Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, but they're only gonna watch like a quarter of the movie because they don't want critics to spoil it. Uh, but yeah, I agree with BK Dan. I will say it's just weird because this is the first Marvel movie that hasn't had any teaser trailer within the 90-day period for when it comes out. And it's coming out soon. It's July. So right now it's April. It's about to be May. I don't know what's I mean, yes, I know there's a trend now changing with Hollywood where they're dropping trailers much closer, which does make more sense financially. There used to be a time where they would drop the final trailer like 4 months before the movie comes out. So it makes sense that they're doing this,
And
but
they
it
would
just
drop
feels weird.
teaser trailers like years before it came out.
Even Godzilla King of the Monsters. This was way before the pandemic, so they had almost no excuse. They dropped the official trailer an entire year before the movie came out. And one of the problems with doing that is the general audience, when the movie comes out, their thoughts are going to be, wait, that movie hasn't come out yet? I don't know. It's weird. But Morbius had that issue. Although Morbius does have a past because the pandemic happened. Morbius, the trailer dropped January of 2020.
Well, it's just like I remember back when Thor: The Dark World, like its first trailer came out. I remember waiting like 2 years after the trailer came out.
Yeah,
Like maybe my memory is false, but that's just how I remember it back when I was younger. Like I remember the Thor: The Dark World trailers, like, and then I saw the release dates. Like, man, I gotta wait like 2 years.
it's I am glad the trend has stopped. I mean, look, I don't mind when trailers come out because I'm gonna watch a movie either way. But it does make much more sense for the because what's the point of dropping a trailer an entire year beforehand? That's it's a little weird, but Zeke brings up is Agatha in the movie. I didn't write that down, so I'll just say I think Agatha will make a little cameo because in WandaVision at the end they establish Wanda has her in a spell and says, "I'll use you when I need you to." I feel like there might be like a quick minute scene where Wanda maybe needs help with something. She changes the spell for Agatha. Agatha gives her a speech and then puts her back in the spell. And I think that's going to be it. What do you think of that, Ethan?
I mean, it's possible. Like, there's supposed to be the House of Harkness series coming,
Mm-hmm.
and so we'll see what happens. It's possible that they might just try to hype her character up before her show comes out. You know,
I liked Agatha a lot in WandaVision. I remember most of the general audience didn't know who she was, but they always wondered, why is she? It seems like she knows something. And they even changed her name to Agnes at first and then revealed it was Agatha all along.
it was Agnes all along.
All right, so the next one, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Now, initially, I didn't think this was going to happen, but there are a couple of reasons throwing me to that position, and that is one of them being Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi directed all three Spider-Man movies, the Maguire movies. So there's that chance that maybe Raimi wanted to get a cameo in, maybe wanted just a quick scene. But the main important thing is when Toby was asked about his future as Spider-Man, he said there were things in the movie in No Way Home that they hid because they didn't want to reveal too much and they wanted to save it for later. And I feel like maybe in some point of this movie, Doctor Strange or something, they'll run into a Maguire's universe and maybe we'll get a little bit of Maguire. Well, I don't think it's highly likely, but I think there's a decent chance. The reason why I didn't put Andrew Garfield is because I don't see Andrew returning in this movie, but I do see Toby because of those two things. Ethan, what do you think about the chances for Toby?
I think it's possible because I don't. In the trailer, it kind of gave me this feeling that we might see some universe hopping. Like it might not like we go to that place with the Illuminati, and I doubt that's in our main MCU universe. It could be a pocket dimension or it could be a separate universe in itself. And so I can kind of see a possibility because, like, not only that, but what's her name? Cap,
Oh,
the Miss America, I think is. I don't remember her superhero name.
wait, you're talking about Peggy?
No.
Oh,
The,
wait, who are you talking?
the girl with the star power.
The girl with the star power?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're talking about America Chavez.
Yes.
Yeah, her.
Isn't her name Miss America?
Yeah, but in the movie's promotions, they've been calling her America Chavez.
Okay. Well, I don't I think they established that she's also from a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of see a possibility like they might be like hopping universes mid fights. Like maybe there's one of the big fights or a small showdown in the series might have them fighting in between universes, and maybe they'll show up in Sam Raimi's universe making a mess before popping out, and Toby's probably like, "Wait, what the hell's going on here?"
What if they show up during the scene where the Peaks of Time scene,
Pizza time.
and they kill the guy who owns the pizza place? Like they crash into the building. Although that would probably be impossible since they're still human.
Uh-huh.
Let me see if I can pull up the image of the trailer because there's a shot where they show them hopping through timelines. Okay, I think I found it here. Let me change. see. Where's the Chrome tab? Okay, here it is. So there's this scene real quick where they're going through a prehistoric timeline here, but this one's more interesting. You see, kind of, it seems like they're shifting realities. I'm trying to pause it at the right time.
Shifting reality or going through different universes.
I think it's a mixture of both. That's my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Let's. There was one specific image where it looked like they were going through a animated timeline, which I think could maybe be the what if stuff.
Oh,
But this one's also interesting.
I kind of want to see that shot of what looks like Superior Iron Man or
Oh
Ultimate
yeah, let me see if I can
Captain
get that
Marvel.
one. Let's see. There's a scene where they're. By the way, when I first saw this image right here, I thought it was Nightmare, but now I think it's more zombie strange.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. Okay, it should be nearby. No, crap, I don't remember where it would have been. By the way, I like that whole blood thing.
I think it was earlier on. I'm just glad that they're starting to show blood.
In Moon Knight, I love there's a shot in Moon Knight where oh crap, it says my Wi-Fi is low. Let me see if I'll turn off the camera for right now. But there's a in Moon Knight, there's a scene where it shows Mark Spector with the knife, and there's blood. You see two guys stabbed.
Yeah. And he said he didn't do it, and Steven said he didn't do it either.
I'm wondering, I think the third personality is what's his name? Jake. It was Jake crap, what was I forgot how to pronounce this. It started with an L. But in the comics, there's like three versions. There's three personalities. Steven was supposed to be kind of like the Bruce Wayne personality. Mark was supposed to be the Moon Knight personality, and Jake Lotley, I think that's his name, is supposed to be like a cab driver who
Jake Lockley.
Yeah, he investigates the crime. He's kind of like hiding, kind of. I don't know. It's pretty cool, but I
He's
think
the
that might be the
detective.
third personality. Yeah, the detective, the Rorschach.
The Rorschach.
Let's see. Oh crap! I don't think I. Okay, so
I think it was earlier on in the trailer.
Let's see.
Or maybe it was in a different trailer.
No, it should be this one because I remember I did a whole trailer breakdown at one point. Let's see if I can find it. I know there's a scene where Wanda fights that Maria Rambeau, or it's either Superior Iron Man or Maria Rambeau.
I get the feeling it's more likely.
Okay, it should be here.
There it is.
Okay. Crap. So fast.
If you go down to this the settings icon, you can slow down the playback speed.
Playback. Let's try that.
That's a thing.
Yeah, I completely forget that. Okay. Crap, I still went a little too fast. Crap. It's even when I pause it though, it kind of looks you can't make out who it is though. It's gonna be difficult. So here's an image. Like I can't even tell if that's a male or female.
I get the feeling it's Superior Iron Man because, like, have you ever looked at the Endosim suit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, from looking at this, it looks like he has that like crown type thing from the Endosim armor.
Let's see. I think there's supposed to be a closer image when he attacks Wanda or she. I don't know. Look, I can't even like that. Looks like it could be either Superior Strange. I mean, not Superior Strange. Superior Iron Man or Maria Rambeau. Like it's weird because obviously Tom Cruise and the actor for Maria Rambeau do not look anything alike, but I still can't tell. I don't
because of how
suit, but yeah,
how blurry it is.
Dang. We're gonna have to wait because I know nobody's been able to pick up who it exactly it is. But if I'm to guess, if I'm to bet any money on it, I think it's Superior Iron Man.
That's what I'm putting it on.
Yeah, because from what I'm hearing, it seems like this movie will have major cameos, and I think having just Tom. It doesn't even have to be an Iron Man variant. Having Tom Cruise himself is a big cameo in and of itself. But let's see. Let's go back to the Google Docs because we still got more cameos to discuss. But Andrew Casali says yes. Oh crap! I accidentally pushed my mic. He says yes, please. I want Toby back. Of course, we know Andrew wants Toby back. It's animated timeline equals X-Men 97 Fox. That would be interesting if they go to any Marvel animated series at all. I don't see that happening, but that's an interesting one. And then BK Dan says it's Cruise, in my opinion. I think it's Tom Cruise as superior Iron Man. But what? So we already talked about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Now this one's very low likely, but I'm just gonna bring it up. Ben Affleck's Daredevil. Now the only reason why I bring it up is because John Campea keeps bringing it up on his show. This one to me is 1% chance. I don't see this one likely. Ethan, what do you think about that?
I just don't see any reason why they would. Just simply because, like, I mean, I loved Ben Affleck's Daredevil. That's an unpopular opinion, but I like I really enjoyed a lot of the old school Marvel movies, like Daredevil, Blade, Ghost Rider. I mean, they're just all a part of my childhood. Like, looking back at them now, they kind of were badly written in some cases, but I just don't see, in this case, I just don't see any reason why they would bring him back for a cameo, because we already have so much hype for Charlie Cox's Daredevil making an appearance in the MCU timeline. And since we already got Kingpin confirmed as well, I just don't see any reason to hype people up over a Daredevil from 20 years ago.
Yeah, and this Daredevil, most people don't really like him.
Exactly.
That version. I mean, yes, Ben Affleck's a popular actor, but
most people are very happy with Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Yeah, and I like Charlie Cox's his cameo in No Way Home. The brick shows up, he catches it. They're all wondering how the heck did this blind man catch it. I'm a really good lawyer. I gotta clip that out. Put it as one of my clips here.
I'm a really good lawyer.
And I also like how they had the nice detail where Spider-Man's hands was also out like he was already ready for that.
Well, I believe in the comic books it was kind of suggested that Daredevil's senses are stronger than Spider-Man's spider sense.
I think that is true.
Like, his echolocation is stronger than Spider-Man's spider sense.
Because Daredevil does require more his like echolocation more than Spider-Man requires his spidey sense. I do think that is true even in this MCU.
Yeah, but they have also established or what they're kind of establishing or referencing that Spider-Man's spider sense is almost like a meta thing, like a mystical power.
If you look at Wikipedia, there's a list of Spider-Man's powers. One of them says not giving up.
Not giving up.
I'm not even joking. Because I searched it up once for No Way Home, and it said his powers is one of them is not giving up, which is true. Spider-Man never gives up, even when he was dying in Infinity War.
He was like, I don't want to go.
This next one. This one's 100% to me, at least. Captain Carter and What If. Now, the reason why I say 100% is if you look at the poster, which I wish I had an image of the poster. One of the shattered glass images shows Captain Carter's shield, and she was a very prominent thing in the.
I think that's a 100% chance, because, like, thinking about it, she could either be a part of the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I'm kind of wondering if this Illuminati group is supposed to be like the second Guardians of the Multiverse, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because in the What If series we had the Thor, Superior Strange, we had all those characters, but they all seem kind of went their separate ways, with Captain Carter going to a universe where Steve was alive, right? Or did she go back to? No, she went back to her universe. Never mind.
Yeah, and Captain Carter's universe, Steve is still a skinny kid, but he is still dangerous because he has that. What was the machine called? The Hydra Stomper. There we go. The Hydra Stomper. He still had that,
Hmm.
which probably could give a good competition to the Hulkbuster armor and Age of Ultron. Oh crap, my Wi-Fi's effing up again. Every time I turn off the camera, the Wi-Fi improves, so I'll test it out for now. The next one. Now this one will definitely shock everyone. If I would even say it would probably be the biggest cameo.
I
Hugh
think
Jackman's Wolverine.
if Hugh Jackman's Wolverine showed up, I would be very happy, to say the least, because that would mean Patrick Stewart's X-Men, I mean Xavier and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which they were both like I don't see many people who could take their places in those roles.
Mhm.
Like I could see a different person playing Jean Grey. I can see a different person playing Cyclops and whatnot. But Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is just so iconic, and the fact that he stated how one of his regrets when leaving was he always wanted the chance to wear that black and yellow suit or the blue and
They
yellow.
did have a deleted scene where he looked at it.
And one of his reasons for leaving was like to play that role he had to get so physically fit, and it was
Mhm.
just too hard on his body. But like, there's fixes for that now.
I'm glad you bring this up. There are two characters that are going to be very difficult to replace. Now, I believe every actor is replaceable. I mean, look how many Batman we've had, Superman, Spider-Man, we've had many. But there are two roles in the comic book genre that are going to be nearly impossible to replace. One of them, the major one, is Wolverine, and the other is Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s version. And I will say, whoever comes to replace Hugh Jackman, if we ever get a Wolverine, which we more than likely are, because I know Kevin Feige has talked about wanting to bring in the X-Men. Whoever replaces Hugh Jackman is going to have big shoes to fill. Not the biggest. I think the biggest is still Joker after Heath Ledger sadly passed away. But
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a difficult role. But Hugh Jackman, even right now, Hugh Jackman, who has not been training like he used to as Wolverine, I still think he's in good shape. And I think even just making a cameo, I think he would still look good in the suit. Uh, they don't have to have a buff ass Wolverine or anything like that, but I do think the biggest surprise you can have in this movie, it would be Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Now, I would have said Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but the thing is, since we already saw him just make an appearance in No Way Home, people are, seeing him again. Sure, it'd be a big cameo, but it wouldn't be as surprising as the first time in No Way Home.
It wouldn't be like as jaw dropping as it was the first time the
Yeah,
cameo with Toby was.
and it's not just the first time; it's also that it happened recently because the movie came out in December, and you can still go watch it in theaters, by the way. So it's still there, and it just came out on Blu-ray. But Hugh Jackman, now I know Hugh Jackman has said that he wouldn't come back because he's already he's already had his farewell with Logan and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a comparison. Patrick Stewart 2 years ago said he held a meeting with Kevin Feige. He went out to dinner with Feige, and Feige told him about how he has a plan to have him be brought into at least just one Marvel movie. And Patrick Stewart rejected it because he said that ending in Logan was just so good that he just couldn't bear to change that ending. But we saw him in the trailer for Multiverse of Madness. And
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman, since he said that he wouldn't return just like Patrick Stewart, I think there's a huge chance that Hugh Jackman,
Might take up that offer.
yeah, and Marvel pays a lot. Marvel was willing to pay you a lot. I feel like since Hugh Jackman right now is moving on, I feel like maybe cashing in one final check could do the trick. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Patrick Stewart's playing the same Charles Xavier from the X-Men movies.
Yeah, because I think that would be a little too complicated to pull off.
Yeah. And I feel like Logan was just such a beautiful ending. Well, not beautiful, but a good ending to both characters that I feel like just retconning it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good. And I think having a variant version would make much more sense because that way you get the fans to excited to see them back. but at the same time you get, you don't retcon that whole farewell. But
And
let's
it, because like my whole thing is, I really want to see the X-Men within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I want to see them actually have a permanent role. But by trying to bring in the Fox versions of those characters, it would just bring up too many questions. It's like, well, especially since their series is also have already dealt with time travel before, so it would just be too hard to kind of explain. Well, how is this universe existing, or how does this make sense? Why didn't the timekeepers punish them? Like,
That is something that Marvel is going to have to talk about, because now they've established, Toby had his own universe, Andrew had his universe, Tom, of course, the MCU. Uh, in the TV, in Loki, they established that the minute you change something from the timeline that's not supposed to happen, you get arrested. How did Toby and Andrew live freely? How did everyone live freely for so long?
Well, the thing with Spider-Man, Spider-Man isn't like a Nexus being, but he is I think I forgot how they described it. He's like a Nexus character, or he's an essential part of a universe. The whole spider totem thing.
Yeah.
Every universe has a Spider-Man.
Let me get into some comments. Andrew did say the TVA is gone, but I'm talking about beforehand. Like, okay, I know they can make that excuse that there was one timeline, but the minute that happened, all these timelines happened, and then during those timelines, you had Toby's timeline, Andrew's timeline. But I don't know, it still feels weird, but it is what it is. I mean, now they can freely do whatever they want because now they've established multiverses out there. Uh, and then BK Dan says if you then he'll be in. Yeah, I do think the Illuminati scenes would happen. But Andrew says, but Isaac Toby can reunite with Sam Raimi. That is a big deal, but it's not as a big deal as the first time Toby shows up, especially when Marvel did try hiding it, which was the worst kept secret in Hollywood history. But still, it happened. There was a surprise. Yes, there will be a massive surprise if he shows up in Multiverse of Madness, but it wouldn't be as big as the first time because the general audience doesn't know who Sam Raimi is.
What's funny is Andrew's Spider-Man was a bigger secret than Toby's.
I feel bad because since Andrew was promoting Tick Tick Boom, he did have to come out publicly, have press conferences and all that. And every time he did, he kept getting asked, "Are you in No Way Home?" And he constantly had to keep denying and denying.
My
While
man wasn't trying to
Toby-
lose his paycheck or his job.
Yeah, and while Toby didn't have to, because obviously he didn't have to go out in public, he wasn't doing any movies, and it's like Andrew was giving all this pressure of, I think even Andrew got more pressure than Tom Holland, and Tom Holland was definitively in the movie. Uh, but especially that scene, not scene. There's this clip where Andrew Garfield kept saying, "I'm not the wolf. I'm not the werewolf. I'm not the werewolf." But that, I'm not in this movie. And even at one point, it seemed like he was so exhausted that he apologized and said, "Hey, I'm sorry if you have your anticipation high. I'm just not in this movie." And now he did show up in the movie, and then he was able to freely talk about Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah. But
And,
what's next on our list?
let me first bring up Andrew's comments. He says, the general audience was around when Spider-Man came out in 2002, so they know who Sam Raimi is because they watch. No. They know the movies, but they don't really know who Sam Raimi is.
They don't know the director and his history.
Yeah, very few directors are known. Like Christopher Nolan's known, Steven Spielberg's known, James Cameron's known.
Like what especially the general audience doesn't know is Sam Raimi, like because of the Spider-Man films, but they don't know his history before that was the horror genre. He was a big horror director, and but now people only know his name for the Spider-Man movies. So that's why I'm actually really excited that they're going the horror element for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because it's like him returning to what he's good at, which is horror movies.
Yeah, and look, it's a big deal for us us hardcore fans. We know Sam Raimi did these Spider-Man movies, and we know there's a chance of that happening. And look, even if it wasn't Sam Raimi directing this movie, Maguire returning in general is still going to be a big shock, but it wouldn't be nearly as big of a shock as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because Hugh Jackman did say not long ago that he wasn't planning on being on the MCU and all that. But that popping up, and Hugh Jackman's a major actor. He's been Wolverine for 20 years. That would be a bigger pop. Not saying as big of a pop as No Way Home had with Toby, but it would be bigger in the movie Multiverse of Madness, because again, nobody expected him to return. And yes, Sam Raimi did do Evil Dead and Darkman. Of course, we were just talking about that, but the general audience doesn't really know Sam Raimi did those movies. If you go ask any random guy who directed the Spider-Man movies, most of the time they're going to tell you they don't know. They just called them the Maguire movies. Uh, but and then Andrew says, heck, after No Way Home, people are clamoring for a Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4. He even said he's willing to work with Toby and Christian Dunst again. But again, the general audience doesn't know who Sam Raimi is. The general audience would like a Spider-Man 4. They would also like an Amazing Spider-Man 3. They would also like a Holland Spider-Man 4. But the general audience doesn't really know who Sam Raimi is. But let's move on to the next cameo. This one, we are going to see this guy eventually. But the question is he going to be in this movie? And that is Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Of course, he's become, oh crap, I'm moving it a little too much. But of course, he's become iconic. A lot of people see him as irreplaceable now, because I do think Ryan Reynolds is probably the most perfect casting for any comic book character I've ever seen. And we, of course, the director for Free Guy and the Atom Project, I forgot what his name is. He has been brought on to write this movie, or write Deadpool 3. And I do think Deadpool is going to be the easiest character to introduce in the MCU. So, but the question is he going to show up in this movie? I think he won't. The reason why is because I feel like Marvel is going to do this thing where Deadpool in his movies will break the third wall. He'll, of course, that's going to happen. But there's going to be cameos in his movies, especially the third one. But I don't think Marvel wants to have this third wall, or not third. Why am I saying third? Fourth wall breaking character show up in this movie, and I do think Marvel risks. There's a difference between being meta and being too meta. One of the examples is Matrix Resurrections, where in Matrix Resurrections it got so meta that it started feeling awkward. Like in the movie, they say Warner Brothers forced Neo to make a fourth Matrix video game, when in reality that did happen. Warner Bros. Forced what's her name? Mike, I forgot what her name was. The Wachowski sisters. They forced one of them to make this movie, and it felt so meta that it felt awkward. And I don't think they're gonna do that with Deadpool in this movie, but I do think they'll do that for his own movies. So if I'm to project a percentage of him being in the movie, I would say there's a 20% chance he shows up in Multiverse of Madness. Ethan, what do you think?
You said 12%?
No, I said 20.
I would say 12.
12.
I just don't see him. I just don't see him showing up. There's no real reason to. He's not the type. His character is not the type to show up in this type of film.
Mm-hmm.
Like Deadpool is an amazing character, but this type of, I mean, yeah, this is a multiverse movie. We're going into different universes and different characters, but if he were to show up, he's definitely not going to be there for more than a few seconds.
To me, what they risk is that whole meta-ness, and I feel like that could be a detriment to this movie that already feels somewhat meta. And another thing is Deadpool is R-rated. He's R-rated, and I don't think Marvel wants to really have an R-rated character in their PG-13 movies, because you do fear, because Disney cares a lot about their family-friendly brand. They care a lot. Bob Chapek cares. Bob Iger cared. And one thing I risk that they risk having Deadpool show up in another movie. The big thing they risk is having a parent take their kid to this movie, and then they see Deadpool and they're like, "Oh, I guess Deadpool is family friendly." They go watch the third one. They find out it's obviously not family friendly, and I don't think Disney and I'm more saying this because of Disney. I don't think Disney wants to take that risk with that character, but I do think Deadpool 3 will have major cameos, whether it's Chris Evans making a cameo. Because, I mean, Ryan Reynolds was able to get Brad Pitt to make a 5-second cameo in Deadpool 2 for nothing but a cup of coffee. That's actually true. Like Brad Pitt, I believe, was the invisible guy, I think,
Yeah.
and then got shocked, and
Yeah,
I found that funny.
his face only appeared for like 2 seconds.
And it's funny how, I mean, Ryan Reynolds is one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, but the funny thing I find is they didn't have to pay him. It was literally Ryan Reynolds was like, "Hey, do you want coffee? Go make this quick cameo in Deadpool 2." And Andrew says, "I think Ryan." Oh wait, hold up. Oh, Roger Murtorg says, "I'm too old for this shit." Andrew says, "I think Ryan will do anything to play Deadpool more, even if it means being in the MCU." I mean, he is in the MCU. He did confirm it around the time Fox was bought out by Disney. He posted that image of Deadpool with the Mickey Mouse ears going to Disney World. I actually have a theory that the beginning of Deadpool 3 will start off with Deadpool going to Disney World and then wrecking havoc. Uh, and I think one of the running jokes in that movie is going to be that Disney allowed him to make an R-rated movie, because Kevin Feige did confirm this is going to be R-rated. But then BK Dan says not the type of character. That's why I give it 1 in 3. Andrew Casali says you can make a joke
You think
saying,
they'll put it on the Disney Plus after a few months of it being out?
with Deadpool 3?
Yeah.
Yes, but the reason why is because I don't know if you know this, but they recently had uh they recently had Punisher, Daredevil,
Oh
Jessica
yeah, they
Jones,
did
Luke Cage.
recently put those on there, and those are
It's
definitely R-rated.
actually Punisher. The funny thing is, so a week ago, I was logging into Disney Plus, or not a week ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was logging into Disney Plus, and the first thing they do is confirm your password before you do anything, which is weird because it never asked me to do that, especially on my PS4. And then after I do that, it showed me this long paragraph telling me, okay, now we won't have any kid friendly things. Every profile you have, you had to make sure it was either kid friendly or adult thing. You had to make this weird password. It was like they put so much that I had to change my password because I actually eventually forgot it. But it was just they did so much to avoid a kid watching Punisher, which makes sense because Disney Plus did promote itself as a kid-friendly, family-friendly app. But it is weird because I did watch Punisher a couple of days ago, and I was just thinking, "Wow, this is on Disney Plus."
Yeah, I wonder what that was like for Disney and Netflix to make that deal to allow, because although those are Marvel-owned properties, they were also produced by Netflix.
Also, Andrew, I mean not Andrew, BK Dan. Yeah, I know. I haven't seen Lethal Weapon in a while, so I didn't even know that's why he was referencing that. But that is pretty funny, Roger. Um, oh, so the reason why I found it more surprising is because Disney owns Hulu, and Hulu has R-rated material. So my assumption was when they took back the Netflix stuff, which is made by Netflix. The only thing is Netflix still has, since it's not their characters, they legally, once their contract runs out, the people who own Marvel, which is Disney, they can do whatever they want with that, which is funny because Netflix was the ones who invested in this. But about the Netflix stuff, I found it weird they put it on Disney Plus because they have Hulu. And my prediction was because Disney Plus was so kid friendly, I thought that's what they were just gonna do. But yeah, it is what it is. Although one thing I hope we see is Deadpool, and this would more than likely happen in Deadpool movies, not in any other movies. I would like to see Deadpool meet Spider-Man.
That would be so awesome because that's been one of my crossover dreams for years.
hmm And I remember when the first Deadpool movie came out, some people mistaked him for Spider-Man.
That's because people don't know. I remember before Deadpool even came out, I used to rock Deadpool, like
Yeah.
this Deadpool shirt that I used to have. And they're like, "Is that Spider-Man?" I'm like, No, are you uncultured?
That happened to me too, because in my backpack back in like eighth grade, I had, or not eighth grade, like I think it was like sixth grade, I had this pin of Deadpool riding a unicorn, and I had some people think that was Spider Man, and the thing I found weird is because in that thing, Deadpool's holding a gun and has two swords in the back of him, and I'm wondering, how do you think that's Spider Man? Do you think Spider Man carries swords and guns? Let's see what comments. Andrew says you can make a joke saying, "Oh man, I'm owned by Disney, so I can't swear anymore. I hate bleeps." But that would feel even more meta. That would feel like you're crossing this line where now the general, because part of movies is you have to feel like you're in the movie. You have to vibe with the movie. You have to feel a certain way. And when you make a joke like that in a movie or Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, if you make that joke, I think it's gonna turn people off. In the Deadpool movies, it makes sense because from beginning to end, they establish Deadpool's meta. Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. But in a Doctor Strange movie where you're dealing with multiversal crises, Wanda is going to murder people. It's going to feel weird having a quick joke where Deadpool says, "Oh man, I'm owned by Disney. I can't curse anymore." I feel like that would be too weird. Uh, and then Andrew says it'd be funny if Deadpool met Daredevil. I would like that crossover too. I think I would prefer the Spider-Man crossover instead, but that would be cool
I
too.
would like the three reds.
Yeah, we do already have two of them, although they weren't wearing red at that point. But yeah, it says you used to be the dude from Pearl Harbor. Nice work on that. I
Also,
mean, I wouldn't have that joke too. Either.
Wasn't Deadpool once a member of the Thunderbolts?
I believe so. I
Because
don't
I
remember.
don't know if my memory serves me right, but there was the Punisher, Deadpool, Electro, which is a Daredevil character,
Mhm.
and then Red Hulk. Those were some of the members of the Thunderbolts. And since also I think Bullseye was a member as well. And these are all characters that are MCU owned. They could use those characters and they could make a Thunderbolts show. Whether they're gonna do it or not, I don't know, but like that would be pretty awesome.
I
And
know.
that could be another R-rated. That could be an R-rated show for them to go with, or movie for them to go with.
I know the actor who played Ross Thunderbolt. I know he recently passed away. So they're probably gonna recast, but I do think there's gonna be. It seems like they are teasing the Thunderbolt because they showed the raft where Zemo was being kept, and they showed Abomination was kept there. And I know that's where the Thunderbolts, like the Thunderbolts, are supposed to be somewhat like the Suicide Squad for Marvel, and I see like they're teasing it a lot. And I think maybe even Yelena Belova might be in the Thunderbolts, or something like that. But we'll have to wait and see. Find out. Spidey fan 64 is in the chat. He says, "Hey everyone, what's up, Spidey fan?"
Spidey
But
fan.
let's read his comment. Says, "Hopefully, Doctor Strange 2 will have a lot more surprises." And yes, I'm not only watching for the multiverse idea, but also is directed by Sam Raimi. Yeah, the thing that most excites me is the Sam Raimi stuff because they did establish this will be the first horror Marvel movie, and Sam Raimi. Now, to me, there are two major reasons why Sam Raimi hypes me up. One of them is he's a horror director; he's experienced in this. But the number one thing is, to me, Spider-Man 2 is not only to me the best Marvel movie of all time, to me it is my second favorite movie in general. Like of all movies, Godfather, Citizen Kane, Shawshank Redemption, Spider-Man 2 is my second favorite movie of all time, and Sam Raimi was the main man behind those movies, and I give him a lot of love. Oh my God, Max, what's up, Max? Max is in the building. He became a YouTube member. Thank you, Max, for being here. And of course, I gotta, just for Max, I gotta put up this. I gotta put up these images right here. Oh, actually, I have another image. Wait, what comment were we on before? I'll let Ethan answer that one. Oh crap! What comment was that? Okay, Ethan, let us know what your thoughts are on this, are you excited? Sam Raimi specifically directing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm excited for the horror element because it seems like they have been shifting their genre a bit. Because like with Moon Knight, although it's not like from what we've seen from it, it's not like totally horror. it's starting to lean towards that more darker side of the Marvel universe, and Doctor Strange has that opportunity to do the same thing. And with Sam Raimi having that history of horror, I just think he'll do an excellent job at this. You know,
I'm just
so
gonna put up this image without context, but Max knows exactly why I'm putting this up. uh, but anyways, let's Angie Casali says, "You said it, Isaac. Spider-Man 2 is one of the goats of comic book movies. To me, it's my second favorite movie of all time. This includes every movie out there because it's probably the movie I've rewatched the most in my life because it did come out when I was really, really young. It's I remember when I was a kid, my parents, in order to shut me up, uh, they would literally just play the movie just to keep me quiet. And I remember my dad told me that eventually I would grow out of this phase of loving these kinds of movies. But I rewatch even more now, and it's a movie. Very few movies have this, but it's a movie that the more I rewatch it, the more I love it. And I know Ethan really loves Spider-Man 2, and I think you love the first one. I think I'm not sure what you think of the third one, but
I
yeah,
liked I liked all three of them. I feel like the third one gets way too much hate than it actually deserves. Because like I remember so many people were hating on it, and as I've gotten older, I think my bias kind of I'm able to not be too biased and actually look at it from like I guess a more, what's the word I'm looking for, critical standpoint. And even now, I still don't see why so many people thought it was so bad. Like I don't know, but that's just my opinion. I thought the third one was pretty good, but I think the second one had the second Tobey Maguire one had the best storyline and best character change and development, and it just had it felt like Spider Man.
yeah,
It
and I
brought
know
out
you
the
don't know Andrew, but he's gonna be happy with what you said because me and him always argue about Spider-Man 3 because I don't really like Spider-Man 3. I did love it when I was a kid because I that's my earliest theater memory I can think of right now.
Mhm.
But
Well,
yeah,
well, Spider-Man 3, like, yeah, there's the issue with there being too many villains, but I think it did a good job with showing that dark side to Spider-Man, because Spider-Man, he does have a dark side. Like most people want to point out the fact he's I mean, yeah, it was kind of cheesy, but like it we're talking about a dude who's been a nerd his entire life. What,
that makes sense to me that he did a lot of like stuff like
like
because like you said he is a
unnecessary
nerd.
cocky stuff. Like he's been a nerd his whole life. He doesn't know how to be swag. He
Yeah.
doesn't know swagger. He does not have the exaggerated swagger of a black teenager.
Oh my god, I just remember that. That guy tried to sound so slick when he said that in that review. But no, I'm still not a fan of Spider-Man. I don't think the problem was too many villains because No Way Home had more villains. It's just to me the writing, but hey, it's understandable. I will say you did bring up the bias thing. I do want to say to everyone, being biased for a movie or any entertainment isn't all that bad. It's like I felt biased with Toby and No Way Home to me because movies are experiential events. And to like, for example, I like Morbius. Most 99% of people hate that movie. I like the,
I
but
haven't
it's
seen
it's
it
always
yet.
an experience thing. It's the greatest thing ever. No, I'm just kidding. It's all right. I liked it. It's not a movie I can rewatch that much, but it's
From
likable.
from what I've like gathered from like the trailer, it feels like a lot. It feels like one of those older Marvel films, like the
Oh yeah, it
it
is.
kind of
It
it
does
kind of
feel like
it,
it.
it feels like one of those older Blade, Daredevil type films.
I'm not joking when I say this. When I watched Morbius, it felt like this was part of the Wesley Snipes Blade universe. Not because of how brutal it is, but because of how old Marvel it felt, like classic Marvel. Wait, you said earlier you liked classic Marvel, right? Like the
Yeah,
Blade and Daredevil. There's a chance you might like it, but I won't spoil the post credits unless you want me to. But
I've already heard about the post credits. It
you
was like
already know.
Michael Keaton's Vulture, I guess, is now stuck in that universe somehow.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry. Those are the I never care about post credits. To me, they don't make a movie better or worse, nor did these do that. But it's definitely the worst post credits I've ever seen. And it becomes even dumber when you watch the movie. Wait, do you know what both of them are?
What?
Like the both post credits?
I only know the Michael Keaton one.
Would you like me to spoil the second one, or would
Go
you
ahead.
prefer to hide it? Okay, so everyone, spoiler alert. I'm gonna say the first one felt stupid because the No Way Home spell. The spell was return everyone back to their universe. How the heck did Michael Keaton show up in a Venom verse that he never existed in? And not only that, his reaction was, "I hope the food's better here." You would think a normal human being who just got transported to a completely different universe, completely different world, would react like, "Oh, where am I? Where's?"
And we're talking about a character who most of his motivation
Mhm.
was to take care of his family,
Yeah,
which is still
it
stuck
was
in the
his single
main MCU
motivation.
timeline.
Yeah, but the second one. So I'll tell you the second one. In the second one, Jared Leto's Morbius is just driving somewhere randomly, and eventually he stops. He's standing, and he sees like a thing flying towards him, and it's Vulture in his Vulture armor. It does look a little different from the one we saw in Homecoming, but he shows up and he says, "Hey, I got stuck in this universe. I think Spider-Man might be involved. How about you and I do some good and get others to team up with us?" And and Morbius' response was just intriguing. Now, the thing I find weird is he says to do good things. You would think that Sinister Six wouldn't say that, but the thing is, the police can't find Morbius. The government can find Morbius. The CIA, no one, the FBI. But yet, Michael Keaton's Vulture, who remember he wasn't the most intelligent guy in Homecoming, was able to locate him. Where did he get his armor from? His armor
I
he didn't
mean,
create.
he was smart enough to put two to two together and realize Peter was Spider-Man, so he must be a goddamn genius.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a genius. I think that one made sense because Peter was acting very nervous in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
He's smart because he built the business. He obviously was doing well financially. He's obviously smart, but he's not like I don't know what's a character.
Batman detective smart.
Yeah, he's not like that. He's not like, "Oh, the night's darkness." I don't know. He's not like that. So I don't know how he figured out where Morbius would be.
But
Why would
from
Morbius
from
care
what I
about
can tell,
Spider-Man?
from what I'm interested in with that is like, all right, so this is the Venom universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Morbius. Now we have Michael Keaton in it. And then a lot of the big theories is that this universe actually does have a Spider-Man and it might be Andrew Garfield. That's what I've been hearing a lot about. But if that's the case, why was he so surprised about a Spider-Man in a different universe?
My question was, why did Morbius care about Spider-Man? Because in the movie, they
It
never
has
reference
nothing to do
him.
with him, right?
Yeah, and Morbius is seen as a good guy. In the movie, there's a lot. So in the movie, the main villain is Matt Smith's character, Milo. And he has the same condition Michael Morbius had. But he wanted the cure that Morbius was messing up, and Morbius told him, "No, you can't have the cure because it's scary. You can't control it." But he still takes it anyways. Him
And
and
that's
Morbius
the
fight. Eventually, have this ethical dilemma of should because both of them need blood to survive, and Milo's murdering people, and then obviously Morbius stops him and all that. So they make it clear in this movie that Morbius is a good guy, and I like this movie a lot. But why would he even care about Spider-Man?
yeah, especially well in the comic books, Morbius does start out more like a villain and kind of
Mhm.
develops into more of an anti-hero. I mean, I think his first appearance was that he was a villain to Blade, and then he became a villain to Spider-Man as well. So I guess they're kind of just really just putting their cards on that for some reason he won't like Spider-Man, but like
Mhm.
it doesn't make too much sense.
Here's the thing that confuses me. So in the Venom movies, they established in the first one you could say he was an anti-hero, but in the second one it was clear he's a hero. He even calls himself, of course, the iconic name, the Lethal Protector.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have obviously Sony's setting up a Sinister Six. They now have Vulture, they have Morbius, they have Venom, and obviously They're working on a Craven movie and a
Well,
Madden Web movie.
I think this is the issue of I think the issue of this was that all right, they're trying to get these villains to have a good character and actually want you to care about the character. But you also but we're also talking about they're villains. They're supposed to be villains and you're trying to put them up against Spider-Man, who is a beloved hero, which everyone wants to see win. So by framing these villains in a way that you like, well, I want these villains to win too, but I want my hero to win. You're not setting it up right. Like, yeah, you should have it at what it should have been was like, all right, I can see how they can make Venom work because Venom doesn't always have full control of himself. Like Eddie Brock doesn't always have full control. Like sometimes Venom just acts up. That's his
Yeah,
character.
they did show that in Let There Be Carnage, but even Venom himself was pushing wanting to be a superhero.
Mhm.
And I think Andrew brings it up here. He says the motivation for Toombs, well, yeah, it says evil because Tony Stark screwed him over. I do think it makes sense he hates Spider-Man again because now that he doesn't know Peter's Spider-Man, his first memory is Spider-Man took away his wife, his kid, his daughter, took away his entire business, his life. Now his wife and daughter are probably struggling financially. They're in a completely different timeline. And so
Well,
his only memory from that is probably Spider-Man put me away, everything's ruined. So I get his hatred,
yeah, and
but at the same time, where did you know where Morbius was?
if Doctor Strange's spell worked in a way where his memory of who Spider-Man was erased before he left, then there's a way to fix some of those plot holes. Then his like, all right, yeah, although Iron Man kind of screwed up his life with what is it? That company?
Mhm.
Spider-Man is the one who put him away. Spider-Man's the reason why he got arrested, like you said. So he doesn't know Peter Parker, Spider-Man. So in this new universe, he wouldn't know who Peter Parker is. He just know, I'm in this new universe, but the last thing I remember, I was in jail because of Spider-Man. Where the fuck is Spider-Man?
Yeah,
So
we're gonna move on from the topic because we do have more cameos, but I do want to read Spidey fans' comment. It says, "I like all three movies. Spider-Man 1 is cinema. Spider-Man 2 is an Oscar winner, and although Spider-Man 3 is not as great as the last two films, it's still good. It's a stellar conclusion of the trilogy." I think you summed up Ethan's thoughts well. To me, I love the first Spider-Man movie. The second one to me is a masterpiece in filmmaking. Spider-Man 3, I rewatched it again before No Way Home. I still don't like. There
I
are
watched
things I
all the
like.
Spider-Man movies before I went to go see it. The
I
Toby
don't.
and Andrew ones.
Yeah, I don't hate this movie, but I don't like it either. It's kind of like a movie that there are redeeming things. Like one of them is Bully McGuire. I actually think that makes sense for the character. Topher Grace as Venom, I didn't like him, but I understood what they were trying to do. Where it's like, this is basically Peter if Peter was fully on evil. I love Sandman. Sandman's probably my favorite thing of this movie because his motivation makes sense. The way he becomes a villain, everything I like. I like all that. The idea of Harry Osborn becoming evil, I felt that was one of the weaknesses, but there were some good things. But yeah, I overall don't like it. But and Andrew brings up one comment. I'm actually going to agree with Andrew. Edward Norton's Hulk is my favorite Hulk. To me, he's the best Hulk. I think he's better than Mark Ruffalo's. I think he's better than, I think his name is Eric Bana. I like Mark Ruffalo, but that Incredible Hulk movie to me is a top 10 favorite MC
Well,
movie.
and I think a big part of it with that is they really haven't given Hulk a real character development since Mark Ruffalo took the mantle. Like he really is stayed the same character throughout the entire series. The only difference is I liked Natasha.
Yeah,
I never
I'll say
went
this.
through with it. Oh, she's dead now. I have control of Hulk now.
I'll
Oh,
say
my
this.
arm's fucked.
I'll say this. I loved Mark Ruffalo in the first two Avengers movies, especially that first one when, Loki used him as the atomic bomb. Like
Mhm.
Loki's biggest plan was getting Hulk mad enough to fuck up everyone else.
And this Scarlet Witch did the same thing.
Yeah, and I think my favorite Hulk scene of all time in any movie is still that we could use that angry Cap tells Hulk we could use a little your Hulk side or angry or be angry. Some I forgot what he says, and then
Right now, he said, "Right now is a good time to get angry."
yeah, and then
That's
Bruce
my
is like, "That's my
secret,
secret.
Captain.
I'm
I'm
always
always
angry."
angry.
And then that Chitari thing just crumbles. I love him in Age of Ultron too. I love that fight between the Hulkbuster armor and Hulk, and I did like him a lot in Thor Ragnarok. Although there's some things I don't like about Hulk in that movie, but overall I do like him in the movie.
Well, the thing
And
is, Hulk desperately needs his own movie again.
yeah, but in Infinity War, I like the idea what they had that Hulk wouldn't come out. That way, you have a reversal where it used to be Hulk kept coming out, but now it's he won't come out. But in Endgame, that's where they fucked up Hulk to me because you have this character that's been deeply troubled. The whole point of Hulk's character is that demon in a bottle story. It's kind of like a curse to Banner. But in that movie, it was just, oh, we have no idea what to do with Hulk. Let's just have him be big, silly green guy. Yeah, he even dabs in the movie. That's my biggest weakness of Endgame, and that was my biggest problem with the movie itself and the character of Hulk because you have somewhat of a development for a while, but it's like you didn't even show us his transformation. It's the thing I found silly, but yeah, Edward Norton to me is
And then
the
there was those
incredible.
deleted scenes of Hulk being a superhero
Yeah,
that they just took out, which would have been nice to see because Hulk. Like the thing is, I know we still got that list that we need to go over, but
yeah,
Hulk has always been one of my very favorite characters in Marvel. Because like growing up, my favorite characters were like Spider Man, Hulk, and Iron Man. Those are my three favorite Marvel characters from very young. I always loved Hulk. And when the Edward Norton's Hulk came out, I really loved that film. I loved the design for Hulk.
mhm,
I liked I liked his fight with Abomination. And then they changed the actor, and I have nothing against Mark Ruffalo. He does a decent job. I genuinely think it's the writing because they haven't written his character to be anything but on one hand I'm smart, on the other hand I'm angry, and
yeah,
that was like okay, this is his dynamic. Now I'm big, strong, smart guy.
yeah. I feel it felt like they didn't know what to do with Hulk. It felt like they want. I'm fine going to the Professor Hulk side because that does eventually happen, but give us a development. Don't just randomly throw it at us.
Because what
It was so random.
I would have preferred to see that transformation or it be something bigger than what they ended up making it be because we're talking about a character who has more personalities than Moon Knight does.
Mhm.
Like he has multiple personality disorder on the extreme. There's hundreds of different personalities within him. Yet they just for some reason decided not to approach that storyline with him. They could have easily have made his character be like, all right, I'm super easily manipulated by Loki and Scarlet Witch. Like I need to be put in check. That's why they made Veronica or the Hulkbuster was so that Iron Man could put him in check if something ever happened.
Mhm.
They should have kept on with that whole ticking time bomb thing. And they could have even went with the whole Planet Hulk thing. Instead of him leaving by choice, they could have sent him away or if they for some reason they couldn't do that, let him go and while he's gone with that during that time when Hulk was in control, you'd see this mental war with Hulk, with him and Banner. Instead of
Mhm.
it being like Banner just goes to sleep, it should be I remember everything. I see everything that happens and I don't like it.
Yeah, I I'm just gonna I'm just gonna hope that the She-Hulk series can do something about Hulk and because it just felt like they were just doing big jolly funny Hulk. To me it's weird because you go from back in the day this deeply troubled man who again has a demon inside him, to now, haha, I'm funny because I dab.
Mm-hmm. Like that's always been the appeal of Hulk. Like
Yeah,
for me, the appeal of Hulk was always, like you said, a troubled person. He he wants to be a hero. He wants to do good, but he can't control himself sometimes. And then there's times when even Hulk doesn't want to be bad. He wants to do good, but the world misunderstands him,
yeah,
and he's always being hunted. He's always being blamed for issues. Hulk is that's the type of character Hulk is. He's deeply misunderstood, but wants to try anyway. And if he doesn't want to try, he just wants to be left alone.
yeah. And also we got Alex in the chat. What's up, Alex? I actually went to go watch the Batman with him. It was cool to see his reaction and my reaction initially. But let's finish off the
That list that we keep
yeah.
going away from.
Hey man, that's a good thing because this is movie talk and we're talking movies as long as we're doing that. That's the cool thing. Where was I? So Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. Okay, now this one, Mr. Fantastic, specifically John Krasinski. Now the reason why I bring that up is because that's been a fan casting for so long. A lot of people want to see Jim Halpert as Mr. Wait, Ethan, have you ever seen The Office?
Yeah.
That's what she
Wasn't
said.
John Krasinski? Wasn't he also in what is it?
The Quiet Place.
Yeah, Quiet
Yeah,
Place.
he directed both, and he did show up in both. But that's always been that.
He was also in a Tom Clancy series.
Uh-huh. And that's been a big fan casting for a while. I actually think this is likely, but from a couple of rumors we've heard, what it's supposed to be is John Krasinski will play the variant of Mr. Fantastic this one time, and we know the Fantastic Four movie is supposed to come out in 2025, which is interesting because Fantastic Four is actually the first ever comic book characters I've ever read in any it's the first comic I ever read was a Fantastic Four comic, so I have this kind of biased love towards the Fantastic Four. I'm hoping I know some people like the first two Fantastic Four movies. I know nobody likes the Fan Four Stick with Michael B. Jordan and all that. I don't like any of the movies, but I'm really hoping Marvel pulls through. I think Marvel can do it. They've had Guardians of the Galaxy, really freaking good movie, Shang-Chi, Eternals, all these unknown characters who now are, they had their movies. But I specifically use Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians of the Galaxy had that family dynamic. So I have this, I'm really hoping Kevin Feige and John Watts, who did direct No Way Home, I really hope they pull through and make a really freaking good Fantastic Four movie. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah,
But
because I've always liked the dynamic of the Fantastic Four. Because I think I first watched, I think my first experience with them was the original movies.
mm-hmm.
But I ended up liking them from some animated series I've seen, and then some of the comic books, and then some of their crossovers with other characters.
Yeah, I remember when Spider-Man tried joining by putting like a paper bag. I actually found a Funko Pop of that, but the reason why I didn't get it was like $20.
No,
But
I like the Spider-Man Future Foundation suit, which is the
yeah.
that black and white Fantastic Four suit.
Mm-hmm. But this
Yeah.
one I see likely because I don't think John Krasinski wants to do, because John Krasinski, I noticed he wants to do more directing rather than acting. I mean, of course he did act in Quiet Place and all that, but I think he wants to focus more on directing. And his wife, crap, why am I forgetting her name? She's also the woman in Quiet Place, in both Quiet Place movies. I forgot what her name is. She's a popular actress. Let me search that up real quick. Quiet. She's a very Emily. I think that's what her name
Emily.
is. Let's see. I think her name was like Emily something.
Yeah.
Emily Blunt. There we go. But Emily Blunt, she recently said that she doesn't want to do like comic book movies and stuff like that. And maybe that may reflect John Krasinski, but again, it's Marvel. They're going to offer you a massive paycheck. So I see
But
there's a chance to bring in Jim Halpert in this MCU.
I see Mr. Fantastic showing up, maybe not like a a part of a super high possibility, but I can see him being in it because the very fact that in the comics he is a member of the Illuminati.
Hmm. I
But I
think
can
that's
also,
why he would show up.
but the reason why I would see him not coming is for the fact that they are trying to make their own Fantastic Four movie or series, and why would they introduce a Mr. Fantastic from a different universe before they show the one from their own universe, you know?
I would use this. Kevin Feige has said in the past he's going to create his own X-Men, and that heavily implies that he's going to get a new cast, new characters. By the way, I really hope this new X-Men really doesn't do Cyclops dirty. I feel like even though I love those X-Men movies, I always feel like Cyclops is done dirty in those movies.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be the leader, but they've always made it where like
Yeah.
Wolverine always feels like the real leader or the real
Uh-huh.
alpha of the team.
Yeah, and they always, even his love life in the movies, they treat it poorly. But I'm hoping that in these future ones, Cyclops at least is the leader. Uh, but what was I saying? So the reason why I use that example is because Patrick Stewart is going to return as a Charles Xavier variant, and I think Marvel is willing to do that, especially because they're not really promoting it. Like we haven't seen Mr. Fantastic in the trailers, and so I see there's a chance Marvel could do that. Not only that, but I think since they did bring in Toby and Andrew in No Way Home, I think there's still a chance of that. Do I think this chance of John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic is high? I would say it's more medium. I would give it 55%. So it's more of a chance of happening than no. Ethan, what percentage would you put the possibility of him cameoing in this movie?
Mr. Fantastic with John Krasinski.
Yeah.
With him as an actor specifically, I'd say 50.
That makes crap. I think okay. So I zoomed in a little more here, but let's get into the next one, and this one's gonna be the funniest one. Oh crap! I've gone a little too far. Okay, Mephisto, and this is Mephisto in general. It doesn't have to be any actor or anyone, but Mephisto. So we all know WandaVision. When WandaVision came out, there's this big, everyone was talking how Mephisto is definitive. I saw some people actually betting on Mephisto being in WandaVision. And of course, me and Ethan were talking before the stream about how Rockstar has this running joke of Mephisto possibly showing up. And anytime a Marvel movie comes out, there's this running joke that he's going to show up like in Eternals, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man No Way Home, Black Widow, and even the Disney Plus series. Now, their Multiverse of Madness, there's a chance Mephisto can show up in a movie like that. But do I think it's likely? No, I don't think, because I do think that we're gonna have Wanda as the big bad, but I think in the MCU she's gonna be the big bad because of her motivations and not because Mephisto interfered, Nightmare, whoever. Although when we first heard the news of Doctor Strange 2, I thought Nightmare would definitively be the villain. He's my favorite Doctor Strange villain. But in this movie, I think the definitive big bad is going to be Wanda. And I don't see Mephisto. So my chance is going to be like 40%. So there's that chance, but I wouldn't put it over. So there's a 60% chance he won't show up, at least to me. Ethan, what do you think of Mephisto possibly being in this movie?
So with that, all right. So I see a big a all right. So Mephisto's realm is full of different like demons and pretty much like multiversal characters. But I don't see Mephisto himself making an appearance, but I do see someone from his realm making an appearance. Like I think that's something that new rock stars were saying, and with all the, I think his name was not Eliath, but it's one of those tentacle monsters.
Crap, I forgot what I forgot what the name of the monster is in this movie.
That they're supposed to have.
Let me search that up.
But I do think there's gonna be one of those like demon type characters to show up.
Oh, the monster's name is Shumagora?
But I just don't see Mephisto make an appearance. And I don't think it's not that I don't think he'll ever make an appearance. I just don't think right now is the time.
Yeah. But I just find funny that even a year after WandaVision premieres, we're still talking about Mephisto.
because Mephisto is just one of those big characters. Like the thing is, uh, one of the comics that I was always most interested in, and one of the matchups that I've always been most interested in was Mephisto versus Galactus,
Mhm.
because they're both stupid strong. And I actually remember a comic of that happening, and Doctor Strange was involved.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange was kind of like mediating that fight, trying to make sure they didn't just destroy the multiverse in the process.
Yeah, hold up. Let me. Okay, so
So
Spidey
yeah,
fan says here.
he's the type of character to show up in this film, but I just don't think he will.
Yeah, I see that. I don't think it's likely he'll show up, but hey, who knows? But again, I think most Marvel fans, when they hear the name Mephisto, they don't know whether it's trustworthy or not.
Yeah, because there's just too many people. Just like so many people just want it to happen so bad that they're not. They don't care if it's going to or not. They're just like, oh, this is gonna happen because I want it to happen.
I remember there was a channel before No Way Home came out. There was like theories, and this was before the first teaser dropped. One of the theories was Mephisto showing up in No Way Home to do that. What's I think the comic book's name is One Last Day or one last something like that. But the comic is basically Spider-Man's
Makes
identity
the
got
deal with
revealed
the
after
devil.
Civil War. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and he makes a deal with Mephisto, but the deal is his love with MJ could never happen. And
which
I know a
kills
lot
his
of
unborn
Spider-Man fans
daughter.
hate that, huh?
Which killed his unborn daughter. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that. A lot of
and
fans hate it, but I actually like that story
I like
because
it too. I think it makes sense.
the thing with that is like Spider-Man is just I don't know. He's just one of those characters that I feel like that's a position that I see him in and not being able to get out of it without going through that, you know.
Yeah, and I remember when I heard that theory, I didn't see it possible because I didn't think Marvel would have a Mephisto in a Spider-Man movies specifically. I'm gonna say this: I don't think we're gonna see Mephisto at all the next 5 years of Marvel.
I
But
can
I'd
agree.
also be denying it if I didn't think there was at least a chance he shows up in this movie. But I don't think it's a high chance. And then the next one, Evan Peters as Quicksilver. Now, again, WandaVision happened. He showed up. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, the X-Men introduced." And then we found out it was all for a boner joke. And
Such
we
a
found
great
out that it
movie.
was just Agatha using a
It
Quicksilver.
was Agatha all along.
It was just the actor, I think they said, that Agatha controlled to manipulate Wanda. I still don't know why Wanda believed that was her Quicksilver, but it is what it is.
Well, she was in a very strange mental place, so she was easily manipulated, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we never seen her have like a huge strong mental fortitude. Like, I mean, think about all the people that she's either worked with or worked for. Like she joined Hydra,
mhm,
and then she literally the day she met Ultron, she was like, you know what, let's do it. You know, like I just think she's pretty easily manipulated. Like I would put her, despite having the power to manipulate others, I would say she's very easily manipulated. Like I would put her in that category of like Hulk. She's a cannon. She's like, don't mess with her
mhm.
unless if you know how to control her.
Yeah, I no one can control Wanda, but uh, do I think this one's likely? You know what? I'd say that this one has a higher chance than most of the names I said. Like, I think having Evan Peters as Quicksilver show up is more of a chance than John Krasinski, Mephisto, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. But I don't think it's like the highest chance. So I'll give it a good 50%. What percentage would you put it around, Ethan?
Just because he's already made an appearance and it seems like they're kind of done with his character. Oh wait, are we talking about like Ralph Boner or
Oh, just
actual?
Evan Peters as Quicksilver in general.
Uh, I
It can be
mean,
both, whichever you think.
I think it's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. I think like if I had to give it a percentage, maybe 30
Mhm.
or You know what? Let's put it higher. I'll give it 60.
The biggest troll would be if Sam Raimi puts in Ralph Boner, just shows up real quick, says, "Hey, I'm Ralph Boner," and then dies. Like Wanda's like, because remember the last time Wanda saw Ralph Boner, she was pissed because he referenced? I think he referenced Vision being dead, and Wanda pushed him out. It was in the Halloween episode. So the
Mhm.
last time she saw him, he nearly died. But so maybe he shows up and then dies for once and for all. But now the next one. Now this one, I don't know if you remember this, Ethan, but every time we talked, oh crap. I kept predicting that he would show up. And that is probably my favorite Marvel character of all time is Magneto. Like in any Marvel comics, movies, or anything, Magneto, but my favorite one has always been the Ian McKellen version of Magneto. And I do it. So I remember I theorized that he would show up and say, Wanda, because obviously in the comics, Magneto is the father of Wanda. And I thought we would get that in WandaVision because Evan Peters showed up. We know Evan Peters definitively is the son of Magneto. And I really thought there was going to be a scene where Ian McKellen shows up and says, Wanda, you're my daughter. And Wanda doesn't know. I didn't know how that would conclude, but that was my theory. But I'm going to say this. I think he's going to show up in this movie. I would say I give it a 70% chance. I know I said that for WandaVision. Clearly I was wrong, but Ethan, what do you think of this?
I mean, I would have loved that to happen, but it's not.
But
Because
I
like
would love to see that.
I could see Ian McKellen coming in this film just because, like, all right, we already know Professor X is, and depending on what his dynamic is in his universe, they could be on good terms, and Magneto might be kind of relatively on the good side.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, honestly, I feel like I would say for him, that's my highest likely thing. I see him more likely than a lot of the other characters on this list.
Yeah, but I never talk about how much I like Magneto because I like this story of this troubled youth who, his parents were killed in the Holocaust. He had to suffer being a part of it. He saw the worst of humanity, and now he's like leading the mutants and wants a revolution against the the humans. And I love how Charles Xavier is like a difference. He sees there's a problem with humans, but we cannot be violent towards them, or else we won't get mutant rights. Because I think Stanley said that Charles Xavier and Magneto are supposed to be kind of like a Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And I've always loved that dynamic between both of them. And that's why Magneto has always been one of my favorite or my favorite comic book or my favorite Marvel character. I like him more than Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, all these other characters, even Moon Knight. Moon Knight was actually one of my top 5 favorite characters in the comics. But I would love to see more of Magneto. It doesn't have to be Ian McKellen. It could also be Michael Fassbender or a different actor. But Spidey fan says, please let's not talk about Spider-Man one more day, nor the Clone Saga, the Clone Conspiracy, nor Sins Past. I hated the story. I actually don't mind the Clone Saga. I know that's probably the most infamous Spider-Man story, but I don't mind it. But let's see. So the next theory, it's gonna be another Charles Xavier, but it's the James. Why is it? It keeps sliding. Okay, the James McAvoy Charles Xavier. This one I'll give it a 5% chance because I don't think we're gonna get more than one Charles Xavier. I like James McAvoy, but I don't think it's gonna be that. Ethan, what do you think of that?
I don't see him showing up like at all. They already obviously Patrick Stewart is, but I don't see why they would bring in two versions of the same character.
And especially since he's a younger version of him.
That James McAvoy's Charles Xavier is also a part of that original X-Men storyline, like from the movies.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like it seems like that would be a lot of like explaining to do. And I don't see why more. Huh?
A lot. And Andrew brings up, says, didn't both Xaviers meet in Days of Future Past? Yeah, they did. Fun fact, when so in the first, what was the first one called? what was it called?
The first X-Men movie,
Yeah, what was it called?
just X-Men.
No, the first one of the prequels.
Oh, First Class.
Yeah, the First Class. There we go. Um, a funny thing in this movie, a lot of people don't know this, but so when they brought in James McAvoy, obviously Charles Xavier was a popular character. He's known to be bald, and he shaved off all his hair. But when he got into the production, they questioned why he shaved his hair because they actually, obviously in the movie you see in First Class he has long hair, and it's funny because he shaved his hair. Nobody told him he wasn't supposed to shave it, and they had to put a wig on him
That's
for at least the
funny.
first two movies, I think, and then eventually he shaved off his hair. But imagine how awkward that must be. Nobody sent him a memo, but that does
Oh,
show that James McAvoy had dedication.
I mean, what, a few years later, didn't he have to shave it again
Yeah,
anyway
eventually he did have to shave.
for Split?
Yeah, and also for the last few X-Men movies.
Yeah. Actually, I
Um,
thought that was funny because, like, I think it was either Split or Mr. Glass that came right before Dark Phoenix. So we
mhm.
just, and the thing is, he trained really hard for Mr. Glass to get bigger and bulkier. So when by the time he actually had his appearance in X-Men Dark Phoenix, we see Professor Xavier all bulky and stuff. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, but this next one, Ethan saw it, but I give this a 0% chance. I'm about to show it, but I'm only gonna bring it up, and you're about to see why. So this next one is the Flash, the Ezra Miller version. Now I know what you're saying. Oh, he's a DC character. Why would DC and Marvel crossover now? Especially because we know they're not on that kind of term yet. Eventually, in the comics, they did have a good relationship, both Marvel and DC. But movie-wise, we've yet to have that. The only reason why I bring this up, and again, I put 0% chance, no chance at all. But the only reason why I bring it up is there are two movies. Doctor Strange is traveling the multiverse in his movie, and The Flash is traveling the multiverse in his movie too. Which, by the way, Ethan, have you read the supposed plot leaks that we had a week ago for
For
The Flash?
no.
It sounds really interesting, but I'll tell you later. But what I know you told me that you would think 0% chance, but what's your percentage on this happening?
1.
1%.
1%.
Imagine if it does, but I don't think we're gonna see that within at least the
Oh,
next 10 years. But
it's because, like, in recent years, I remember both in a DC comic book and in a Marvel comic book, they were heavily referencing each other.
mhm.
Like, I don't remember what DC comic it was, but they're explaining how they were seeing a character was seeing a vision, and they were seeing characters in iron. There was, like, I think the way they described it is like characters in an iron suit, and then I see a man with a hammer. And then in a Marvel comic, I remember they were also having a vision of something in DC. I think they described Green Lantern in that vision, and so I don't know if I'm not really updated on a lot of the comic books lately,
Yeah, me too.
but it seemed like last time I heard they were heavily. It seemed like they were kind of getting towards a more modern crossover, which I've been dying for in comic books. I've been dying to see another Marvel versus DC comic books, especially since with how writers are today. I can bet it would be a lot better than all the past crossovers ever were.
Yeah, but I don't see this one likely. Now,
Yeah, I see
there's
it
actually
happening in
another
comics
major
a lot sooner than I see it happening in a movie.
yeah, there's also another major reasons why I wouldn't see Ezra. Ezra's in a lot of deep shit right now in his personal life. I won't bring it up because that's a very touchy subject. I've already gone in so many arguments about Ezra Miller, but even if he did, which again I already had a 0% chance, even if he did show up, I would say that they would delete that scene just because of what's going on in Ezra's private life.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go to the next one. Now this one's also unlikely, but it's more possible than Flash Ezra Miller, and that's Chris Evans as Human Torch. Now, here's the reason why I bring up Chris Evans. Now, it was a year ago. Variety, one of the most reliable sources in Hollywood, came out with an article saying that Chris Evans is talking with Marvel to return for a movie. Now, it was never specified what movie, what character. It was never specified if this was going to be a one-time thing. But what was said by Variety was he is going to show up in a Marvel movie. And I think there's a chance Chris Evans shows up in this one. But the question is, as Human Torch, I'll say no. And the reason why is the same reason we had for Ben Affleck's Daredevil. Not a very popular character, not a loved character. Why bring him up? A lot of people aren't going to like it. Now, the funny thing would be is everyone knows Chris Evans. Obviously, you got Chris Evans right. Oh, you can't see it in frame, but a hot toy right here. I don't see this one likely. I'll say there's a higher chance than Flash, obviously, because at least this is a Marvel character. But I would only give it a 1% chance. Ethan, where do you put that chance?
I would give it like 10%.
10%.
Just because, all right, like, I don't know, but I would expect at least a member of the Fantastic Four or a character from the Fantastic Four comics showing up in this film simply because of the Illuminati, and I feel like it's needed. I feel like it needs to have a character like that. If it's not gonna be Mr. Fantastic, I guess Chris Evans. But the reason why I would say it wouldn't be Human Torch is because if they're gonna bring Human Torch into the MCU, I see them making it a more younger character because Human Torch has also always had a good relationship with Spider-Man because I think they were around the same age range.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Evans as Human Torch, that's 0%. But Human Torch in general showing up, I'd say that's a higher chance.
Yeah.
Because like I guess what most people like they think cameos, and it has to be a known actor or a known like it has to be a certain actor from a previous film, but a cameo could also just be a character. And Human Torch is a character.
Yeah, and Andrew Casale says here that that'd be a surprise. Chris Evans walks. We think it's Steve Rogers, but he yells flame on. Imagine the scenes if Doctor Strange, there's a portal that opens and he thinks Cap, and then you see Chris Evans. He has his hands like this, and then poof, you see him turn into fire, and he says "Flame on." That'd be like the big surprise. Anyone who watched those Fantastic Four movies and knows Chris Evans played Human Torch, that would be the big surprise. But let's get to the next. I believe this other one's also Chris Evans.
I think the younger kids would be like, why is Captain America on fire?
That's not what Captain does or Cap does. But yeah, and then this one. Now this one's more probable, and I know it's a simple one, but Chris Evans as Captain America. All right. I don't think this one will because
They already kind of closed the story.
Yeah. But another reason why I don't think we're going to see him is because I don't think they want to have too much of one character, except Strange. I think they already showed 2 other Strange variants. I think we're going to see more Strange variants in these movies. But Chris Evans, the reason why I say that he won't show up as Captain America, I do think there's a higher chance of him as Captain America than Human Torch. But the reason why I don't see him coming in is because we're already going to have Peggy Carter. And that one I give 100% chance because we did see her shield in the poster. But I don't see him showing up as Captain America. Ethan, what do you think of that?
I think it does have a higher chance than Human Torch's version because we do have that gap of what all he did while he went back in time, and we've clearly made this thing. All right, he was gone, and technically he should have been in a different universe, but he came back to the main MCU timeline. And with the Multiverse of Madness, this is a good way to fix that plot hole of how did he come back? You know?
Yeah.
You could say maybe he was a part of a multiversal war. And after the war was over, he came back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's also pretty hard to do, but I see that being a higher chance than Human Torch because there was that gap time of him being gone and he have no idea what all he did. So
Yeah, but I still give it a low chance, but I'll give it a solid 10%, which is much higher than Human Torch. But now this one, I give it a 100% chance. White Vision from WandaVision. Now I'm gonna say this: I actually don't like White Vision and WandaVision. Now the reason why is because I found it so lazy that Paul Bettany, obviously his vision died. We saw him come back in WandaVision, but I found it so lazy. This is my only criticism of Marvel, the MCU, is that it seems like they don't want to kill their characters because they're scared of losing an actor. It's how many times has Loki died? He even died in his own show. I mean, obviously he didn't, but there is that implication. We've seen characters come and go. We even had an entire movie where half the cast dies and then are brought back the next movie. I'm so done with Marvel doing this. And when I saw White Vision, it just seems so lazy that they were like, "Oh, we still want Paul Bettany to stay, so
well,
here you go,
with
White
that,
Vision." I know it's in the comics, but I do find it a little lazy.
yeah. Well, with that, I can understand it a bit more, and it wasn't like there wasn't this big like what type thing with it,
Mhm.
but I'm kind of glad that they did it, and I do see White Vision coming back because I feel like at the end of WandaVision, his memories are restored. He knows who he is. He knows he's the real Vision. And when he left, I'm assuming he left on maybe a self a journey, like a self understanding journey.
Mhm.
And with maybe he'll come back towards the middle, maybe towards the end to help Wanda cope with everything. Because when he died, that's when she was really set over the edge.
Mhm.
And now he's back, like actually back. That was his original body. That White Vision body is the real Vision's body. That's the and that I just feel like it has the possibility of like maybe taming the beast within Wanda or helping her help herself.
Yeah. Now we have two last ones, I believe, but we referenced this one a little earlier, but that's the Wesley Snipes Blade.
I
Um,
wish.
I'm gonna say or not zero. I'll give it a 5% chance. Now, this one I think is higher than like a Ben Affleck Daredevil. And all like we were talking about Human Torch and Daredevil specifically about the reason why we don't see a high chance is because they weren't very loved. Blade is the opposite. Everyone or most people that have seen the Blade movies, even the ones who aren't fans of the Blade movies, at least like Wesley Snipes as Blade. And he's so far. I know we're gonna get a new one with Mahershala Ali. He's the only Blade we know. So to a lot of people, there's more nostalgia, not as much nostalgia as like a Tobey Maguire, Hugh Jackman, but there is that level of nostalgia for Wesley Snipes. I love Wesley Snipes as Blade, but I don't see a high chance because Blade is of course a vampire killing. He's a badass R-rated bloodthirsty character, or not bloodthirsty. Obviously, those are his villains, but the I don't see a character like him showing up in a movie about multiverse, going through variants and all that. Ethan, so I'll give it a 5% chance, but Ethan, where would you put that?
More towards 15%.
15. Nice.
Just because like all right, unlike Daredevil, unlike some of the other characters we named, like most of my reasons were all right, they already have future plans with these characters. Like Daredevil, Charlie Cox is in the main MCU. They already have future plans with these characters. I don't see why they would bring in a cameo for those characters and confuse their general audience.
Yeah.
But the difference with this though, Blade is a supernatural character and he's dealt with supernatural situations.
Mhm.
And like in the comics, there's a lot more to Blade in the comics. Like he does more than just fight vampires. But I see him popping up and maybe have a general understanding. And I think this gives a good chance and opportunity to I don't know, like maybe put a better closing to his character arc.
Mhm.
And maybe they'll kill him.
Oh my! I remember when Spider-Man No Way Home, when Toby got stabbed, I
My
genuinely
heart.
thought, I like for a while, I stopped. Like everything I was thinking, I stopped for a while. And I'm like, no freaking way they're gonna kill him. Um, and then of course we just saw that he got stabbed. He was like, hey, I've been stabbed before. But still, in that moment, I was like, oh my god, the Goblin finally got the revenge he wanted. But yeah, I don't see a high chance. But if you were to tell me who do I think is more likely, Ben Affleck's Daredevil or Wesley Snipes, I would say Wesley Snipes as Blade. But like you said, I don't think they're. I think there are going to be some variants we're going to see of new characters we're seeing in the future, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of them.
Because
Now,
like this is a multiverse movie, so I mean, I just don't see these characters like if I can see almost all of these characters showing up, but I don't see them playing more than a few seconds in the film. Like
yeah,
if Daredevil, Ben Affleck's Daredevil were to show up, I just see it being like a pass by, like in the background or something
yeah,
like that, rather than an interaction with our MCU characters.
yeah,
Does that
and
make sense?
yeah. Now the last one, we've already seen him cameo in the MCU, but we're still going to talk about the possibilities, and that is the Tom Hardy version of Venom. Now, again, we already saw him cameo. He showed up in the MCU, then left the MCU. But the reason why I bring him up is because Venom establishes in the post credit of Let There Be Carnage that he knows about many, many universes out there and many multiverses, and even said that Eddie Brock would his little mind would explode knowing about all the stuff that Venom knows. And so I have a theory that Venom is going to be a character moving forward to the Sonyverse that is aware of multiverse, is aware. And because he did make a cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home, I'll say this, it was a disappointing cameo, but nonetheless, it's a cameo. I put him in this list because there's a small chance. But again, I don't see this one likely. I give this one still a like 1%. And the reason why is I it seems like Sony wants to create their own Sonyverse with Spider-Man and all that. And I think part of that is they're going to try separating both more now than they ever have, than they have ever separated them. And so my thoughts is we're not going to see Venom, but because of all the context we now know about Venom as a character, I don't see him much about this. So Ethan, what would your percentage be for Venom, the Tom Hardy version?
Not the Tom Hardy's version, 40. Venom
40?
in general, 60.
Like any Venom variant? Like
Yeah,
bring back Topher Grace.
like a Venom variant, I'd see that be 60, but Tom Hardy, I'd see that be like 40.
Yeah. And I'm gonna bring up this last one because I didn't even think about this, but some sort of funny dude says, "What about Wiccan and Speed adult variants?" I say no because I do think the main motivation is gonna be Wanda trying to find her kids. But when we see the younger versions of, I think we're only gonna see the kid versions because we saw a little commercial. I don't think we're gonna get an adult variant. But Ethan, what do you think of that?
I don't see the adult variants. I'd
You don't
see
see it?
like if they were gonna age them up at all, I would say they would probably be teenagers rather than full adults,
Mhm.
because Speed and Wiccan, they have the possibility of aging them up to like teens, and then they can start that new Avengers thing, or have them be a part of like the younger Avengers with Spider-Man and all these younger characters that they're bringing in, like Miss Marvel,
Mhm.
uh, Miss America. We're starting to get these like more younger characters into the MCU, but I just don't see them bringing full adults to, especially with Wanda's story and her like whatever her healing is going to be. If Speed and Wiccan are going to come back, I doubt she's going to be satisfied with adult versions of her kids.
Yeah, I do think this though. I think we're gonna see what we saw last time with WandaVision, that age range, I think they're supposed to be like 10, 11, 12-ish, somewhere around that age. I do think the next time we see them, they're going to be teenagers. And like you said, they're going to team up with Miss Marvel, Kate Bishop, all these other characters and make like a young Avengers. But I do not see them as adults in this movie. But yeah, that's all the cameos. I think any cameo that we've thought of, we talked about in this stream. There's a lot that I think is possible, a lot that aren't. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see and find out. I'm excited to see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is a movie that got announced in 2019. Took a long time. This movie was supposed to come out before Spider-Man No Way Home. So it's interesting to see what they would. I know there's a concept art that's because the movie No Way Home was supposed to come out after. There's gonna be concept art of America Chavez meeting Peter, Ned, and MJ. But what are your closing thoughts on this, Ethan?
My closing thoughts are trying to figure out what they're gonna do with the timeline right now. Because if this movie was supposed to take place before No Way Home, that has a lot of ramifications of what the events of No Way Home meant. Because if the
Yeah,
multiverse was already toyed with before it was toyed with more, it's like, how come he fucked up that spell so bad? If he already had experience with the multiverse.
yeah, and it's gonna be a movie that it's funny how different Flash and Doctor Strange are. I mean, obviously they're different. One's magic, one's Speed Force. They're both They're both gonna establish multiverse in their universes. But it's weird because
Speed Force is more of a cosmic power,
yeah,
while I'd say whatever Doctor Strange uses, depending on whether or not they're going to bring the Vishanti into the mix, it's more of a mystical, godly power.
yeah, it's it's would you like to know some Flash what the Flash is gonna do? Would you like
Yeah.
me to tell you? So this is a plot leak that came on Reddit. Now the reason why,
Spoilers.
huh?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Oh wait, I gotta put up the image. I mean, it's a plot leak. I tend to forget them, but some people do care, so I will put up the spoiler alert right now.
Possible
So
spoiler.
the reason why I believe these plot leaks is because they do match up with a lot of the things we've heard happening. So in the movie, we know the movie will start off with Flash missing his mom. You know, the iconic Flashpoint story. Uh, he goes back in time, and in the movie, they established at the beginning that Ben Affleck's Batman has been helping Barry. They're even going to go on a there. I think there's going to be a scene at the beginning where they're going to stop a bank robbery. But in the movie, they say there's gonna be three berries. One of them's I mean, it's hard. I'm trying to remember all of it, but the leaks do say that Michael Shannon's General Zod's returning from Man of Steel. Sasha Calle is going to play a Supergirl variant where in Man of Steel, you've seen Man of Steel, right, Ethan?
I think I've seen every DC product
DC. All right. So in Man of Steel,
except
uh,
Peacemaker.
I do got to give you my HBO Max password so you can watch that. Um, uh, in Sasha Calle's Supergirl in her timeline, it's found out that General Zod succeeded in killing baby Superman when he was flying out of his ship. And a lot of people were freaking out because they're like, "What? Superman dead?" I mean, we already had enough of that Superman. And then Michael Keaton's Batman is going to be the same exact one from the Tim Burton Batman '89 movie. Um, and apparently in the movie, they're both gonna die because of Zod, and they're gonna establish Zod as one of the big bads in this movie, which I find interesting because in Man of Steel he was fucking brutal. But
Like I've always like that's one of the things I really loved about Man of Steel. I
yeah,
really liked Zod. I thought he was a really awesome villain.
he's still my favorite DCU villain so far. But and I love that I love my favorite 1v1 fight in any movie ever is still Superman and Zod fighting in Metropolis. It felt like a live action anime fight. But we find out I'll just skim to the end because the end is where it's the surprise. So they established in this movie that everything up until Shazam 2, which Shazam 2 is supposed to be the last movie that comes out before Flash, or no, Aquaman 2, I believe. Yeah, Aquaman 2 is the last. No, never mind. It's Shazam 2. Aquaman 2 will come out after Flash, but every movie before that is Snyderverse. But in the Flash movie, they're going to establish that Flash created a new universe where Michael Keaton is going to be the main Batman. Sasha Kai will be the main Supergirl, and there's going to be a lot of the current stuff like Peacemaker and all that that's going to go into that timeline. But the Snyderverse will still exist, and the post credit will eventually it'll have Ben Affleck's Batman sending Flash a message saying, "Barry, we need your help." And apparently, what it's going to set up is that Batman and the rest of the people in that universe are stuck in the nightmare timeline that you saw in the Snyder cut. Um, and we're gonna find out that apparently they're setting up Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, I'll show you this
So
picture.
we have the Whedon's universe,
Yeah,
and then
wait,
we
let
have
me
the
show.
Snyder universe, and they're going to be separate.
Yeah, I'm gonna try finding this image that freaked out everyone. Uh, I know, so I'm not gonna give you context, but just look at the image itself, and then after that I'll tell you the context. Here's the image. Let's see if I can pop it up. Where is it? Crap. I want to zoom in. Okay, there we go. And now I gotta zoom in. I'm gonna let you process this for a while. And oh crap, I hate these news. I always hate going through these articles because they have so many ads. But let's pull it down. All right, let's share screen. Okay, so just look at this image and you interpret it the way you want to. Oh crap. Do you see anything in the image?
The book.
You see the book? What does the book say?
It looks like the last word says crisis.
Yeah. So back in November, Zack Snyder posted this for Thanksgiving, and this freaked out everyone because they thought Zack in the past, when it came to the Justice League movie and all that, he's always been he likes to have like secret codes. He likes to interpret, like he likes sending messages.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone freaked out when they saw Final Crisis. Now the reason why I bring this up is because in the post-credit scene, apparently it's supposed to set up that there's going to be this big Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline with DC, all the DC movies. This includes the new timeline that Flash created and the Snyderverse timeline. And apparently it's going to have, okay, before I say what I'm about to say, apparently from the Reddit leak, Flash is supposed to travel through Grant Gustin's universe, the Grant Gustin Flash universe, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman movie universe, or not Wonder Woman movie, it's a show, and then the Adam West Batman universe and the Michael Keaton Batman universe. He's supposed to travel through all universes, but apparently in the post credit they set up that all these universes, including, I'm about to say, I don't. A lot of people are I'm divisive on this. They're gonna include Robert Pattinson's Batman universe in this, but there's gonna be this big Crisis on Infinite Earths event that they're leading up to.
Which will either merge the universes.
Yeah. And I don't know how believable these leaks are, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, it's an interesting thing because honestly, like, I love DC. I've always loved DC, like mainly the comic books. I've always had like mixed feelings with the cinematic universe for DC, but the Batman movie, I loved the Batman movie. I thought that was, to me, the best Batman movie I've ever watched. Like I loved the Dark Knight trilogy. I loved all the old movies, but this Batman movie felt the most accurate to who Batman is and what his character and his story should be, if that makes sense. Like, and I feel more excited about his universe of films. I feel more hopeful for what they have to say than I am for the DCEU.
Yeah, I'll say this right now. So when we first talked, and even in my review, I say this. Oh crap! I didn't want to play a trailer, but I want to just pull up an image. There you go, just random image. So I said initially I thought that the Batman, as much as I loved it, I didn't think it was as good as the Dark Knight. My mind has changed after watching it. I think a total of 4 times or 3 times. I mean, I think the Batman is a better movie than the Dark Knight, but I still think Ben Affleck is my favorite Batman. BVS is my favorite Batman story. But this Batman movie, the more I just this Batman movie has the best cinematography in any comic book movie. I'm gonna say that right now. It felt
Yeah.
like a genuine. It felt like an artist made this. And the only problem I have with a lot of comic book movies, it feels like they don't really care about the cinematography, everything. I mean, you do have occasionally some movies like Joker that do have really good
Well,
visuals,
I think a
storytelling.
lot of it, like especially with the MCU, they're so focused on pumping out these movies as and keeping this timeline and keeping this overall universal story that they don't take the time to be artistic anymore. Like that's why, like when I go back and look at some of the old Marvel movies, like the Wesley Snipes Blade or Ben Affleck's Daredevil, like it had good, to me it had pretty good cinematography. Obviously it's still early or early stuff, you know, they didn't have a bunch of CGI to like cover up some of the messiness, but or even some of the early MCU, like the early Marvel movies, like Iron Man and Captain America. I feel like those movies were pretty visually stunning versus how some of the more recent ones are, if that makes sense. Like it feels like so much of it's
Yeah.
just CGI, but like with the Matt Reeves Batman, a lot of it's practical effects, and it's just it looks good. Like when I first saw that movie, like it made me when I see Gotham in that movie, that is the most accurate representation of Gotham I have seen other than Joker.
Mm-hmm. That's when it comes to visual specifically, the best thing was they established Gotham ain't pretty. It's a
It ain't pretty.
disgusting, rainy, gloomy, dark place that you better make sure you're not carrying your wallet at all times when you're there. uh, and I love that, and especially the beginning. I think one of my favorite scenes in this movie is a simple scene where you see the guy with this green mask. I don't know what, I think it's supposed to be some fruit, and he
In the intro,
robs. Yeah, he robs, and Batman's like, he has like dialogue. He's like, they think I'm hiding in the shadows, and then you see another crime where someone's vandalizing, and you see both of them. You see 3 perspectives, and you see like the guys with the white paint on them, and both times the 2 guys, like one of them, they drop their spray can and it
and
rolls over,
ran,
and instead of getting it, they're like, nah, fuck that, Batman might be in there. And you have Batman saying they think I'm hiding in the shadows.
and then
And
the guy with the clown mask gets run over.
yeah, watch what you're going. And the raining, everything looks so beautiful that eventually, and you even hear like music, like you hear that, like you're expecting Batman to show up, and then eventually when he does show up, you see him like walking natural, like Batman's looking,
That's
and he's like, "Hey, you better run right now, but you
that's
got a
what I
chance."
loved. That's what I love so much about the Matt Reeves Batman movies. Like, if you pay attention, I think we have already had a stream and I've already talked about it, or maybe we talked about it over the phone.
Yeah, it was the
But
phone.
almost every scene, like there was only like two scenes where he's running. Every other time he's walking.
Mhm.
When he enters in that first fight, he walks, and then and the his first scene with the with Detective Gordon and his the murder, he walks in surrounded by police officers, not carrying.
I love how they show you his perspective too, where you see everyone's like looking at him like a freak, And then eventually the officer told him not to go, and then I everything, the also the music, Something in the Way, both times they use it was so perfect, but I think the first time was even better because you see Batman, he's looking at this kid who just lost his father. He has, he feels what he's going through because obviously that's what how Batman was born, through the pain. And I love how the music starts playing, and when that song's playing, it shows you after Bruce riding his motorcycle going back to Gotham. But during that time, it just, by that point when the song plays, they establish Gotham's it's a shithole. You do not want to live there, and if you have the opportunity to leave, you
Leave.
leave.
But
And the Dark Knight trilogy. I love the Dark Knight trilogy, and I still think the Dark Knight is an amazing movie. But the Gotham in that movie always felt way too Chicago-ish. It felt like it was just an average city, while with the Batman, it feels like Gotham is unique. It doesn't just feel like a New York or a Chicago or anything like that. It felt like a fictional world that was dirty, it was grim, and it was horrible. And some of my favorite parts are the scenes when they're going to the iceberg lounge. You like when you see like the outside, you see how dirty everything is, and I love that about the Batman. But the action itself. So Pedro, before the movie happened, he told me that one thing he didn't like is that in the trailers, Batman isn't dodging anything. It's kind of like he's just allowing himself to be shot. But I remember when he left the movie, he told me that he actually loved how they did it in the movie because it shows that Batman doesn't give a crap if he gets injured. He just wants to
exactly, and
kick
that's
ass.
what I liked so much. Like he in this movie. That's why I like that he did more walking than he did running. There was the only time he ran, that from what I remember, was when he was in that when he was at the police station trying to get out of there. That was the one time he was ever panicked running. Every other time he's walking or he's taking things. Like when he first goes into the iceberg lounge, he walks in. He's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh," walks in, takes you down, keeps walking, and that's what I like. Like he doesn't he does exactly what Batman's mission is supposed to be. Like he didn't want to be he didn't want to be seen as a man. He wants to be seen as a force of nature. And
Mhm.
in the movie, that's what he feels like. Like when instead of dodging the bullets, he just takes them.
It felt like he was a boogeyman. Like that's what we did a stream before the movie came out, and we were kind of like predicting everything. And one of the things that they established in the trailer is he's a if you're a bad guy or if you're someone who's committing any crime, do not do it. Or this bad guy over here is gonna, he's gonna make you wish you didn't do what you did. And I
Exactly.
love that. And one of the best scenes is I've so I'm not like a car guy. I don't care. I don't know anything about cars really. Um, but the scene where Batman turns on is the engine to his car, you're
I loved how scared he was.
and then it shows like Penguin standing there in the rain while the light flashes him. And I love it, especially because I watched it in Dolby, and Dolby has some of the best audio. And that scene specific, I've never in my life gone hyped up for a car popping up on screen. But when he was chasing the Penguin, by the way, Colin Farrell as Penguin was freaking amazing. I want to see, because he's getting a spin-off series on HBO Max. To me, it feels like they're going to go a Godfather-esque story, which is what I hope Book of Boba Fett did. Sadly, that didn't do it. But the Penguin, he felt, out of all the characters that felt comic booky, Penguin probably felt the most comic booky, which that's a good thing to me. The Penguin felt very like, and one thing I do like is that they established that he cares a lot about this mafia life, because at the end he's pissed off at Falcone because they find out Falcone was the rat. Um, but I love how at the end he's like, "Wow, man," because Penguin worked for Falcone, but now
Mhm.
he looks at him, he's like, "Come on!" And he was even willing to kill him. He nearly pulled out his gun. I love that scene because early Riddler says, "Bring the rat to the light." Batman doesn't know what that means, and then
And he thought
eventually,
Penguin was the rat.
yeah, Falcone gets shot, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's what he meant." I don't know how Riddler predicted that, but then you see the sniper. But I do love how at first it makes you think that maybe Penguin's surprisingly shot him, although you never see him pull out his gun completely. You see him on the ground being pinned down, and he's like, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it." And then eventually they found Riddler. But Riddler in this movie, he won. He won. He completed everything he wanted. The only thing he didn't complete was teaming up with Batman, because he did idolize Batman. And that's something I also like about the movie, that it shows you that Riddler is a hardcore Batman fan. And Batman, even though he thought he was doing good, he realized that he needs to be a symbol of to Gotham. And I love that a lot. And the Riddler, he was like the Zodiac killer. He was a serial killer. And I love that even when he got caught, he wanted that to happen. It made sense to his plan, because everything was complete by that time.
By the time he was in jail, he was safe away from the flood.
Yeah, and my favorite scene in the entire movie was when Batman and Riddler interact raw face to face. And it's not, to me, I still think the best interrogation scene is going to be The Dark Knight with Batman and Joker in the prison. But this one was also good because you learn Riddler's motivation, you learn what he's there to do, and you also find out he's a fanboy of Batman. You find out that what he wanted to do was expose the corruption in Gotham. And then after exposing the corruption in Gotham, he wanted to, because early in the movie, I know a lot of people don't like the flooding part, but to me it made sense, because early in the movie they established Riddler hates Gotham. He sees this as a cesspool you call a city.
Well, the thing is, they took that straight from Batman's 0 year.
Yeah.
That was something that happened in the comic, the New 52 comics.
Mm-hmm.
Batman 0 year, Riddler flooded Gotham, and then used Poison Ivy's, or before she was Poison Ivy, he used some of her spores or whatnot, and made all the plant life overgrown, which just took over the city. So it was kind of left like an apocalypse.
Yeah, but anyways, we've almost gone 3 hours. My voice, I need a rest, because I am gonna go on someone else's stream later today. But thank you for being here, Ethan. Where can they follow you in your great adventures in the multiverse?
Yeah, and you do good too, bro.
But yeah, thank you guys for being here. It was fun. If you're watching the replay, let us know in the comment section your theories for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I guess you could technically say this was a Multiverse of Madness pregame show, but it is what it is. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you to Ethan for being here once again. And
Thanks for having me.
You guys next time.